Hello. How you guys doing? Welcome to Individual Perspective Podcast. I am your host, Daris D. McKinney. Individual Perspective Podcast is a podcast where your truth is the objective truth because we do not communicate, report, or divulge information on this podcast that will make you look stupid in the real world. Okay? We don't do that. Anything that you can see us communicate here, any idealism, any theories, any hardcore reporting holds up to scrutiny for decades to come. I have podcasts that I've done since 2015 that holds up to scrutiny through all these years. So individual perspective and how I report and what I communicate is strictly objective, is objectivity and action. And I do it to relationships, to social dynamics, to politics, to just different discussions of the trials and tribulations of one personal life and the things that we all go through. Okay? I am not here to elevate my arrogance. Is to just kind of have a communication of what we all going through, what we're all experiencing, things that we all think and we all communicate, or what's the different courses of life or the things that determines what's the outcome and what's the historic evidence of our time on this planet together. Okay? So that's what I do. That's what individual perspective is. And I'm trying to give you guys a good broadcast. Every single time I come on here, I'm really fighting to give you guys a really good broadcast, And I need your help. I understand. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. And there's another person on YouTube that you're saying, hey, I give my super chats and I give my PayPal and my Venmo and my Cash App and my memberships to other people that are well established and well known, but really they got the bells and whistles coming from the multi-millions of dollars and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can throw into entertaining you. I'm gonna entertain you and I'm gonna do my best to even let you see how they're doing it wrong. Because I think the job is sad, but we can't trust the mainstream outlets no more. We can't trust the legacy news outlets and media anymore. We're gonna have to actually come together, support each other, and let ABC News, CBS News, NBC News, MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News, and a lot of podcasters also, we're going to have to do our work to let them know that they got to take the ego out of how they're reporting. They got to take what they perceive how to deliver information to us out of the equation and just give us the media. Because right now, if I were to tell you what's the best source for you to get like pure objective, just what society is and what's going on in society, you got to go to Twitter or X. You know what I'm saying? X, formerly known as Twitter. You have to go there because it's messy and it's a lot of wild stuff. It's gonna pop up in your thread if you don't have your stuff geared towards certain things coming to you. If it's open and you're looking at pretty much the threadings and what's going on Twitter, there's a lot of stuff on there that you probably don't want to see, and it's pretty disturbing and stuff like that. But it is what it is. It's a bird's eye view on our world and our society. And that X, formerly known as Twitter, is the most objective, like pure information hub of the world right now. Is pretty sad. You get what I'm saying? Like I always said, I love Fox News. It's my number one outlet. I always will watch Fox News, and until I can build something here that's powerful enough where I wouldn't even watch Fox News anymore, because how they reported on the Ukraine war is ridiculous. I did a detailed podcast on Ukraine war on Rumble. That's why, it may not seem like I got a lot of podcast history on YouTube, not because I'm kind of bouncing between both of them now. But if you want to see some really good coverage of Afghanistan war, Ukraine war, the migrant situation, politics, and everything, and just how it's objectively is, then you need to go to Rumble, and you need to go to the podcasts that I've done in 2015, 2017. 2015, 2016, 2017. Even I did a podcast called Life Choice, Health, and Wealth. Life Choice, Health, and Wealth in 2020 during the pandemic. And I got detailed information in there that I communicate that give me credibility right now as I stand in front of you reporting on this podcast. So I'm just saying, I'm telling you, like all of them, I'm telling you, and it's not a lie, every single podcaster, every single social influencer, every single news outlet, every single anchor has discredited theirself from what's common sense and what's known information for about 10 years now. They don't have any credibility. They may be supporting of Trump, you get what I'm saying, now, but he had to almost lose his life. He had to almost lose his company. He had to almost destroy everything about him and his family in order to get some respect and at least a decent understanding of humanity, even just to get his own constitutional rights. He had to go through 10 to 12 years of some of the most powerful billions of dollars launched at destroying his image and his name. You get what I'm saying? And then now we got to look at our favorite superstars or movie stars or singers or politicians or philosophical speakers or social influencers or motivational speakers. They all come out now and make it seem all right that everything worked out for Trump and everything. But dude, what happened to him, it should never happen to an American citizen. I don't care who he is. I don't care if he's a Ku Klux Klan racist member. No one should have their constitutional rights destroyed like that. Nobody. And if that could happen, it's over, y'all. We up here talking and pandering to each other and saying, okay, it ain't happened in my life, so it ain't got nothing to do with me. It all with one thing about the Biden administration, all his decisions, all the stuff, all the warfare, all the things that he ideologically did, the people around him, even President Obama, what President Obama wanted to leak over into Clinton's administration, to leak over to Biden's administration, all that stuff came hardcore down to the brokest, low poverty, nobody in the country. Everything came to your doorstep, invaded into your life, even mine. I've lost, like I say, in the last 4 years, I lost $30 to $40,000 in investment, and I can't afford it. I could not afford to lose that. It's not like I got that assets, and if I lose it, it's another 40 I got or another 80 I got. That was it for me. That was it. So all my equity value, just because of certain things were going on economically with how liberals and the country was dealing with the dollar and percentage interest and percentage and just the moratorium on expense, it pretty much, it almost destroyed everything that I gained. So I stand here right now in front of you as a person that is, I feel the turn. I know what the turn is. I know what I need to do to kind of make sure that it's a come up instead of just a total destruction. And because I set up things to make sure that I don't get destroyed, and I can always, the risk that I needed to take to actually magnify myself, even if I was to lose everything, that I took that risk and I achieved the goal or the actual protocols of what needed to happen. So I did that, and that's the reason why I can stand in front of you right now and do this podcast and hold my head up high and look you in the eye and look in the mirror and say that I'm a strong person, boy. I tell you that. And I'm a very foresight person, and I got good premonitions, and I got good foresight, and my gut, I'm pretty much on my gut a lot. So I step into 2025, and it's hard. They say most people give up on their New Year's resolution in the second week of the year, and it was hard for me. It was really, really hard to hold tight to because I started my New Year's resolution at 12 midnight, 12 midnight on December 30th. 12 midnight on December 30th, I started my New Year's resolution, and it meant that I couldn't interact with anybody that didn't utilize or be effective in their own personal life. Not for me, not for what you could do for me. I need you to be strong and effective and make great decisions in your own life and your own outcome. And then that, by us collaborating in the stuff that I do, because I'm a filmmaker, so I make movies, and I don't make crappy movies and stuff. And I could, and you could make good money doing crappy movies, because Tubi shows, I know a lot of people in Detroit. I say 99% of all the movies that come out of Detroit is garbage. I know people that shot movies in the industry, shot movies with the iPhone that would destroy 99% of everything created in Detroit and put on Tubi. That's the facts of it. So if that's possible, if I could get you industry people that took an iPhone and destroyed them, made what they did look like crap, me even understanding that, I got to put that into my movies. I got to put good quality presentation and production and everything. And if it takes a studio like Warner Brothers, Paramount, Disney, Lionsgate, am I missing somebody? Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Lionsgate. If it takes them multi-millions of dollars, I think the average movie, I'm talking about like 99% of the movies that they make are probably around, I'll say realistically, $3 million to $20 to $30 million. That's the average movie they make. And if me in the city and I'm doing movies for $2,000 or $6,000 or $15,000, and if I'm lucky, $30,000, if I'm doing that, it's a high probability that I won't achieve the great cinema experience that they would give unless you know what they're doing. So what I do is I make sure the cameras I use, I make sure the audio that I use, I make sure the software that I use, I make sure that every single thing that I put in my movies is exactly what they're putting in their movies. Because that's what Steve Jobs did. Steve Jobs did this 20 years ago, y'all. He literally put the biggest movie studio in your ability to grasp. That's what Steve Jobs did. You get what I'm saying? So knowing that most is a high probability that you can execute what the big studios do, but you gotta keep this method in head. If you don't got the time, you better have the money. And if you don't have the money, you better have the time. Meaning, if you're a low income person and you're an independent filmmaker, you cannot not do the checklist of the industry. Because if that's if that's the standards of the human eyeball, because you got obese women, you have very not so good looking people, not so healthy looking people, and you have like regular people sitting at home and they're judging what they watch. They want to look at the good looking people. They want to look at the people with good health and good physique and good looks and stuff like that. And they want to make sure that the lighting is good and all the other stuff. They don't really think of it like that, but how they impulse play and change the channel decides that. And if you psychologically analyze them, that's what they're going for. So if you know that's what it is, who are you to skip over quality control stuff for a movie, and you're a nobody and you're spending nickels and dimes for your movie when they're spending multi-millions of dollars? You cannot allow yourself to skip over. That's how I look at it in film. The reason why I tell you that is because knowing that the way that you look at life and the way that you go about it, you got to have a regimen. You have to have the right people around you. So in 2025, I told myself I can allow myself to even because I know in the last 6 years, one of the major detriments was not me writing the script and making it come to life. I was able to do that. I was able to write a script, do whatever it takes to put people in the right room and put people together and get it actually put into physical footage and have it accessible to me. And so the value of me as a filmmaker is, hey, you're a grown ass person. If you decide that you want to write something, can you get it made? Have you ever done it where you wrote something and you got it made? Have you ever had an idea that's in your head that you put it to a paper and then a paper to real life? Have you ever done that? Yes, absolutely. So knowing that I have done it at the least 10 times, that's pretty hard. To do it one time, I thought from 2018 to 2028, if I was lucky, I was going to get one really good film that I really wanted to do, like get it made. And it would take me 10 years to do it, and I would have to go through the trials and tribulations. I would lose my financial stability. I would lose, because I was a person, I spent 20 years just making sure that I went to work and I pay for my lifestyle and I pay for the roof over my head consistently, and that I was able to, if people needed a loan or money, I was able to help everybody out, family members, friends, everybody. I would pay for the bill at restaurants, everything. I made sure that I was financially status equity for society. But that passion, my skills, my actual effectiveness, my ability on earth, I domiciled it. I literally had it domiciled where I wasn't even using it. I had one foot into film and one foot out. I will always keep up with everything, make sure I utilize the latest technology, master the latest software. I was in it. I knew exactly what I needed to do if somebody was to drop me in a plane in Johannesburg or Japan or China. I would go to any movie set and I would know how to run that set. I will know how to direct those movies. I will know how to edit those movies. No matter what they did, no matter what software they did, I don't care. Around the world, I was that aggressive in making sure that I kept myself up. But I had one foot in and one foot out. I wasn't really going to follow my passion like I really wanted to. So I told myself, I'm at the time where I reached a certain age, and I said, you know what? It would be shitty if I had died or I would be dying on my deathbed, and I didn't even take 10 years of my life to just give everything I got to what I really wanted to do, or what my real ability is, and even my understanding of the market, to not really have done it, and you spent 40, 50 years of your life like paying the man or living for the man, or making somebody else's dreams come true, or what they feel that's valued. I thought, yeah, this ain't good. You know what I mean? That's not a good way to think. So I decided I'm gonna give up everything. I'm gonna give up stability. I'm gonna give up understanding that I'm gonna take a risk by going in it, and I might lose people and everything I know in order to get to the finish line, because I have to follow my passion. I have to follow, not my passion, I have to follow my path. Don't follow your passion. Passion is something that's idealistic. It's idealism. It has no validity in your life. It's just an idea that you have. A path means that you know from start to finish, and the value of it in the end. Meaning that you understand how it plays in the marketplace. You understand how it plays in the economic situation of what you're risking to what your reward is. And that path, you understand it. And there's no hope, it's no it's no idealism in there. It's like the data is this, and the worst case of the data is this outcome. And that's what you go into. And that's how I actually put my hand in and actually utilize my place in the marketplace of film. Okay, so I say this to say that I stand here now and I say I gotta put the right people around me. I gotta be around really great, effective people in their own lives, so when I collaborate with them, and when I'm risking everything, when I'm doing like a movie for $30,000, but that's to pay for the actors, that's to film everything, and that's to capture everything, and it's in my livelihood, and my price tag is 30 itself, and I'm not getting that 30, and then I have to own everything, and then I have to find out later how to recoup what I should have got paid, or what my equity value would have been, economic value would have been. I always make sure that I can get it later because I own everything. So why not just get the movie done and then figure out like who to bring in the end? And that was not pretty. But I knew most of the time, if I ever say like, hey, because in the average movie, it costs $50,000 to get me to bring my equipment, and because I got everything, and then me do the cinematography and the directing and all the stuff that needs to be done. You could spend like $50,000-$60,000 on me alone if you're just paying me right out. You get what I'm saying? Most 99.9% of every film will never get done in this independent world, and even in Detroit, if I did that. If I say, hey, I'm not gonna do anything till you pay me my 50-60 grand. You get what I'm saying? 70 if I own the script. You get what I'm saying? And that could go up because it's $100,000 for a script. So a good script. So in that situation, if I was to do that, you wouldn't get anything done. I wouldn't be able to make anything because they'd be like, oh man, I only got $6 grand. I only got $2 grand. I only got 15 grand. I only got 30 grand. And it's like, dude, the cast costs $25,000. I'm talking about to cheat them and pay them the lowest amount for the average movie. The cast's gonna cost you $25,000. You get what I'm saying? Let alone the crew, let alone the equipment, let alone whoever owns the script, let alone whoever directs the film. You're like, dude, you can't even green light the project without about $50,000 to $100,000. oh, this guy did this movie for 15 grand. No, he's not telling you about the other expenses that he has. He's telling you that that's 15 to $30,000. That's probably what they gave the production team. But that doesn't tell you about the food. It doesn't tell you about the location. It doesn't tell you about the equipment they purchased. It doesn't tell you about anything. So that's not a way to look at it. The truth of the matter is, you can't even be in the same space as me unless you got 50 grand. Otherwise, guess what? I gotta erase myself. So I found that 100% of every project that I did, in order for that project to get done, I had to destroy my value and my economic value and my household and everything about my growth in order for that project to get greenlit and moved forward. And so I decided, even before I went and put my hands into this business, that this is how Detroiters do business. This is how the filmmakers locally do business. So if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to have ownership of it. I'm going to have control of it. Why? Because I'll film a bunch of stuff for the next 5 to 6 years. I'll do it for 10 years. And in the end, I'll spend another 5 to 10 years to edit it up and release it. You get what I'm saying? I didn't have to do it that much. I ended up doing I did about 4 years of filming stuff. Really doing 4 years of filming stuff, 4 or 5 years of filming. And now I'm taking about a year or so to kind of edit everything up and release it all to you guys. And the good part about it is the first 4 months of this month, I'm releasing this stuff to Tubi and Peacock and Amazon Prime and all that stuff like that. And I did some really good work, beautiful films, beautiful, good looking stuff. And yeah, but it took time, and it's a lot of people want you to rush your stuff out when you make it. But I'm like, no, because you won't love the sound, you won't love the visuals, you won't cut it with competitiveness against the industry. And I'm like, no, I gotta be able to really look at it, really have the space, the computer, the hard drive, everything that it takes to make sure that everything runs smooth and that you can really present it how people are gonna watch it. And sometimes that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if I could barely get that for multiple films, ain't no way in hell I'm gonna get that for my post-production and my editing. So I gotta find a situation where that will works for me to put that kind of quality and respect into the film. I tell you guys this because I started this year in war mode. Not in war mode, almost just like not even having my same circle, the people I trust and the people I relied on. You know what I mean? Because relying on them hurt me more than if I didn't rely on them. You know what I mean? I would have been better off just being a complete asshole and just doing what I wanted, taking what I wanted, and separating. But I didn't do that. I tried to keep the relationship. I tried to build what I try to say, hey, what we're doing is for this goal. It's for us to sit at the table and really be able to articulate why we made that decision, why we did that, why we limit that, why we limit the production on that, why we limit the shots on that. You got to be able to communicate your final decisions. And if you can't do it and you're just kind of like a Tasmanian devil just doing stuff and just tearing up stuff and you have no definition to it, then why do it in the first place? That's how I think. That's what my mind is. I know if I was 25 years old, I could go do all the stuff. I could just throw things to the wall, spaghetti at the wall, and hope that everything works out because I have a chance to recoup and return and go back out and do it again and make mistakes again and then recoup and then go do it again until I get it right. But when you're in your 30s and 40s, you have to make good decisions when you make the decisions. And sometimes decisions got certain outcomes that may not be beneficial or have pros and cons to it, but don't worry about that. You had to make that decision. So you can't regret the decisions that you make. You just make them. Especially if you gotta make them. You know what I mean? It's better than not making. So I feel that if I have any advice for anyone, I find when I talk to millionaires and highly successful people than me, that I'm working into my success right now. I'm building into my success right now. So I'm not the successful person that's on great social influencers or multimillionaire podcasters or like that you guys are striving to be like or follow or envy or whatever. I'm just a person that's leveling myself up, and I think I level my only. The good part about it is the way that I leveled myself up was actually in my endeavor. It was in actually the thing that I stopped myself from doing for 20 years. And then I decided, nope, I'm not going to stop myself no more. And so happened to be the most success I ever had in my whole life into actually outcome where I can actually see it was when I took that endeavor. So everything else was just, it was vacation or restaurants or enjoyment. It's the temporary stuff, rent and all that stuff. It was temporary, and you can't see it and physically have it now, and it plays no beneficialness. It doesn't pay a benefit to where you're going and your days to come. But the stuff I did in the last 6 years, it absolutely does. Absolutely plays a factor to what's to come. So the reason why I say that is because I'm starting all over again with my circle, and it's the hardest. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been the hardest 9 months, 10 months I ever it's just been really, really hard for the last 10 months, and it's for the best though, because if I underperformed, if I came up short, man, I could just imagine the demon stuff that people would do and put on me to treat me like and stuff like that. And it's like you guys are coming up short. I don't care what you think you're doing. It ain't good enough because of what you asking for. The outcome you're asking for, you're not putting in enough for that. So that means you're coming up short. The outcome I'm asking for, I'm putting my life into it. So knowing that, I had to put myself around people that are very effective in their life. They're doing stuff effective in their life. They got great mindset to their stuff. And when I communicate and they communicate and we're in a back and forth or even situation, it's of high intensity and high value of the conversation going on. It's not something that it's like I'm talking to the wall and nothing is effectively happening. There's no reaction to what I'm saying that shows that there's a validity of what I'm saying. It's a disconnect because it's like, hey, I'm not going to compromise myself in order to go at it like that. What if you do that? Because we all got to compromise ourselves for a bigger goal. If you're in your 30s and your 40s or your 40s and your 50s and you think you could like limit your risk, no, you got to really double down. Because you got to get that multiple decade jump of success. So the outcome that you want, you're going to have to really put in to get that outcome. So when I seen that people don't even have that mindset, and no matter how much I communicated, they was not doing it. It was like, hey, y'all going, no matter how much struggle y'all think y'all went through while we was in the endeavor of doing this, you guys went to work. You guys got more jobs. You bought cars. You went on vacations. You did all kind of stuff. Me, I had to lose vacation. I lost cars. You get what I'm saying? I lost income. I lost like the stability of my life because somebody got to keep writing. Somebody got to keep going out and filming it. Somebody got to keep editing it. Somebody got to have something to show for in the end. So somebody got to be doing it and setting up to do it and manipulating to do it and organizing to do it and funding to do it. Somebody got to do that. And we're not going to be able to like say, hey, well, I did this, but you've been going to work every single weekend. Every single week. And maybe on the weekend you help me out. Maybe on 1 or 2 days and during the week you help me out. That's not enough when I'm losing every day for the last 6 years to get the things that I got accomplished. And then I got to put my financial, pretty much my salary, my money, the money that I would be making per hour, I got to just let disappear. If I want that money, then we ain't doing it. If I want it, if I don't, if I say, hey, let's just get the job done, then I own it. So that's why when I do my contracts, I do my situations, I make sure that I'm going into this movie on the most probable outcome. And the most probable outcome is most of the people around me, even the actors, gonna come up short. And I'm gonna muscle through it, I'm gonna manipulate through it, and I'm gonna get to the finish line. And then everybody gonna say, oh, look, we got that movie done. Oh, you got that movie. We should release it on Tubi. Nope. We gonna release it on Tubi when I'm ready to release it on Tubi, when it's up to my standard to release on Tubi. Why? Because you guys don't care about what it took in the beginning to the end and to how it's gonna be perceived to the viewer in the end. Why? Because it means nothing to you. Because the process how you were through the process. And I have to start the project with that understanding in my path. It would get us to the end. It would get me to the end. It would get the films to the end where there actually will be a value, where I could bring people in even right now to partner with me to move it forward. So I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't do the work that I did before I rolled the camera, before I started everything. So I say this just to let you guys understand the bigger picture of how we got to deliver information and how we got to be objective to our society and our culture. And I watched how they treated Trump, and I said, man, dude, he's getting attacked because, well, I guess powerful women look at him as like a guy's guy. They feel like he objectifies women because he cares about how they look, and he makes sure that they have some kind of stature and quality and everything like that. And he judges women like that, and they say that's him because he owned the U.S. Miss USA pageant and the and the Miss America pageant and all that stuff like that. And that shows proof that he judges women, and he rates them and all that stuff like that. So we hate, he's enemy number one because we want to destroy that about men. And it's like, for the last 50 years, women have decided that they wanted to actually do something that women haven't done in the last 2,000 years, and was to be on an equal playing field with men. And there's no such thing of being on an equal playing field with men. Men are predators. You get what I'm saying? We are predators, and we are dominant, and that's our primal instinct. But because we're Homo sapiens and we evolve and evolution of thinking and everything, we could subdue ourselves and like weaken ourselves in a perception. So even though I always say that every man has the Alexander syndrome inside of him, where we're innately conquerors, we're innately achievers, we're innately great specimens of the human Homo sapien evolution. We're innately the best. Men are of the two species, men and women. You get what I'm saying? But if you got a bunch of men in society for the last 40, 50 years that are not up to snuff, or this is how women are communicating about us, that we're not providers, we're not alphas, we're not dominant, that's not because we don't have it in us to be like that. Is that we think about our mothers and how strong and how dominant they was through the last 40 years, or through the baby boomer years, through the 1970s to the early 2000s, and we think about how strong they was to do the things that, and the older we get, we understand really what it took to put food on the table, to pay the rent, to pay the mortgage, to have a screen TV in the house, and to have cable in the house. And we grow up learning that, and we take a little bit more of a understanding of the up mobility of the female Homo sapien, and we go more into the feminist thought process, because when we couldn't fight for ourselves, we had our mothers, and if she was single, or no matter what the situation is, or our fathers wasn't around a lot, and our mothers had to take up or do whatever the situation is, we put it in our head as we have to pay respect to that. And so we go into relationships, we interact with the female work in the workforce, and the female that we come across and be competitive with and all that stuff. We don't look at it competitive. We be chivalry. We back up, open the door for them. We back up, and and let them go in the door first. We back up and we let them proceed first to magnify them. So the only way that women have 40 to 50 years of up mobility or leveling up so much, where they're part of the administration power of this country, meaning that they're making the big money because they're running the accounts, they're accountings, they're lawyers, they're people of administration to take money and put it into something that to have the power of that is because a lot of men that used to be like the bankers and all that stuff, and majority of them and stuff like that, we decided to subdue ourselves in order for the and I'm just giving you guys a example of what's going on and how they look at Trump and why they attacking him. And so men, if they're going to be competitive with women, it'll be savage. It will be really brutal. It will be nasty, and this the sexism and the misogyny and all that stuff would have been unmerciful. The stuff that they're accusing, they're like women and the feminist movement, and a lot of men that actually take that because men have to threaten other men to elevate women. That's the only way that can happen. So the stuff that they call misogyny and sexism right now is garbage compared to what it would have been if we went at each other. If you're trying to take a job from me, so I have to destroy you. If that's how it was, women wouldn't even have any of the movement they have right now they've been having for the last 40 years. Men has to subdue themselves. They would have to pull back. They would have to neuter themselves, castrate themselves in order to magnify women. So that's what happened. And now women hate weak men. And they're hating to work so hard and go out there and make a living and take care and be the breadwinner. They hate this shit. And they're telling us we were too weak on them. We were too soft. We should have been more masculine. We should have been more dominant. We should have actually did what it took to dominate women so they wouldn't be in the workforce, because in the end they regret it and they don't want to spend their whole life like this. That's what they're telling us. So the first time men really came out to say we get it and we don't even like it either. So for women and men, we agree, no more. And we're taking the steering wheel and we're taking back in control. The first time that really was starting to come out was the pandemic. So once the pandemic, the virus came and it put people in to a place where they could kind of start processing how they feel about everything. And they went on the internet. They start doing podcasts. They start doing the interaction between the genders and really magnified the gender war that was always going on, but it was really pinpointed and start to magnify where we start to kind of see what was the dynamics between the sexes. And now men decided in 2020 that they were going to communicate now about what was going on, and that it may not be the best way to move forward. And that communication is only about 40 years old. The turnaround from the feminist movement and the elevation of women from the last 40 years, it's only technically been about 4 years now, 4 to 5 years, going to the 5th year now. So as we turn this ship around, yes, it's a little messy. It's a little messy for men to kind of take control of their lives, take understanding what they need to do and how they got to re-hardwire their brain process. That's impossible for a human being to do, to rewire their thinking. You get what I'm saying? And so men are doing that the best way they can, and they're taking in control of the ship now. And even in my own life, I'm turning it around. And I'm taking, and I think I did a lot of, majority of my life, I pretty much, I don't really play that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I do think I didn't push the gas pedal like I should have. I didn't dominate when I should have. And I kind of had consciousness of it. And I tried to have my cake and eat it too and play both situations. And it didn't work out. It wasn't the best for anybody in the end. As I look at my life right now and my interactions and my relationships right now, I don't think it wasn't a good idea to let any woman have prominence over where I needed the relationship or business or anything to go. So now, but yes, like I said, for me, I'm an enigma because I was kind of dominant, but I also kind of gave levity to women. And overall, as I look at everything now and what's on the table now, I say like, wow, I probably should have took control of that situation. I should have probably took control of that. I should have probably stopped everything and analyzed that at that time. But you can't live a life on what you should have did. We all need to move forward. So, that's why I'm communicating now to let you guys understand. Even now, it's a weird mental illness going on in American society. And I say this is probably in the world as a whole, but really in America. And it's that women hate how weak men are, but they got their foot on men's necks, and that they got the opportunity to cut their head off. They're not gonna, they really kind of enjoy the dominance. So let's just attack men. Let's just attack them aggressively. And if we kind of holding the fork down now, let's just see how it is if we really take power and every inch of the ability of a man over and see how that life would be. But you don't like it. You don't like the working. You think it's stressful on your body. You don't even want to have kids. They not even looking at it like that. It's a savage primal. Oh my God, you down, you hurt. I could cut you now. I could cut your head off now. I could destroy you now. And that's why they attack Trump like that. He's a poster child for masculinity, for men, for drive, for ambition, for the Alexander syndrome. He's a poster child for that. So they threw everything at him. And I'm telling y'all, I'm trying to keep this conversation small, so because I got a lot of clips to go through and everything like that. I'm trying to keep this conversation small, but I'm trying to give you the psychological analyzation of what is going on with us. And so knowing this, you gotta remember, they not gonna pinpoint it out for you like this. Fox News don't like him that much, so they cover him because it's good ratings for them. and it's a tongue-in-cheek situation with that. But really, overall, the producers and the higher-ups, they don't really like Trump, okay? But overall, they not going to tell you this, not even the podcasters and the social influencers. When you have Disney that's making Little Mermaid and Star Wars and all the Marvel movie, meaning they got about 50 billion to like $1 trillion worth of valuable loans and money, liquid if they had to, and all their resources, Disney World and Disneyland all over the world and stuff. These people put billions of dollars behind destroying him, putting bad narrative and bad communication out there about Trump to stop him from becoming president in 2016, 2020, and 2024. They put billions behind this. Universal Studio, billions. They NBC, they MSNBC, they put billions behind this, destroying this man. Amazon with Washington Post, they put billions behind stopping Trump. Okay, trust me on this. Trust me, every time somebody come on the air and they doing it for 8 hours a day or 12 hours or 16 hours a day, that costs money. Just think about it. If you have anchors that's spewing 80% of the airwaves negatively talking about him, creating documentaries and news segments and research and development to try to make this man look like a dangerous, racist, evil, white Ku Klux Klan man, and it's not even the truth. Make him look like a criminal, and it's not even, no factual evidence could show that. Okay? That's the billions of dollars they put behind him. Guys got to know this stuff. Got to be common sense about it. If you were to go out and try to do a commercial, find out how much that costs, and then go add up how much times when you were watching NBC News, the Today Show, all this stuff like this, the Morning Show, all this. When you look at all that stuff, you'll say, yeah, they spent billions behind trying to destroy this man. You know what I'm saying? You have Viacom, that's CBS. You know what I mean? MTV, all that stuff. You have that trying to destroy this man. You know? Then you got CNN trying to destroy him. With the coverage that they doing, with the everyday negative, false allegation, psychologically manipulating perceptions and propaganda media. Then you got the FBI and the CIA and the DOJ because they think he just like we got top secret stuff and he'll leak stuff and all this stuff. And the Pentagon, and they got hundreds of billions of dollars at their disposal. Come on, y'all. Then you got billionaire liberal people like George Soros and them putting like funding behind certain prosecutors to put it all through the states of America. Just come on. Then you got Fox News, where it's fair and balanced. You get what I'm saying? Horrible concept. Terrible concept. Fair and balanced means that, yeah, you could let a liberal voice their opinion, and you could let a conservative voice their opinion. You could let a Republican voice their opinion. You could let a Democrat voice their opinion. But then you gotta let the anchor say, "Hey, we are here to deliver the news, even if we're taking both of you guys' opinion. But this is the actual truth. And this person, what you just said, is not inaccurate. There's a lot of emotion in that. There's a lot of perception in that, and idealism in that. But it's not the factual evidence of it." So I need to tell the audience, this is what it is. This is the truth. This person lied. This person told the truth. This person lied. This person told the truth. The anchor has, in order to be fair and balanced, the anchor has to come in and be the deciding factor. Whose perception between this liberal and this conservative, this Democrat and this Republican, told the truth? Who? But they don't want to do that. They made a business in the argument. You understand that? That's the job of with people like me, podcasters coming online and trying to give you guys and commentate and react to certain things. That's what you're supposed to do. Give what the situation is and what's the truth of it is, and it'll hold up from 10 to 20 years to 30 for life. It'll hold up for time to come. Okay? So when they attack Trump, they say, well, he's a racist because when him and his father was building condos and apartments, they want to give to black. It ain't about no black people. They wanted to make sure that people that rented their properties, they rent condos, or they leasing their condos or purchasing their condos or renting their apartment complex, they had 3 times the amount they rent. Good business decision, meaning that the most money you spend a month will be on your rent. So if you make 3 times the amount of your rent, your food, your clubbing, your lifestyle, your whatever, your other expenses will be 2 times the amount covered, and you will not even need to touch what needs to come to your renters, your roof over your head, consistently and on time. So that's the model that Trump implemented with his father in the business and everything like that. And at that time, because I'm telling you, New York was so liberal and it's so chaos. If you go back into New York into the 70s and the 80s, it was a cesspool. It was destructive, evil, demonic. It was just terrible environment. And they decided, like, we want to make these millionaires and these billionaires be a little bit more giving and accepting of the income of low income people to the people that kind of like that want to level themselves up and everything. So they decided to bring a lawsuit on Trump and how he was doing business. Trump fought it. He wanted to fight it. So he could have settled. They could have paid a fine, but he decided to fight it, and he fought it. They fought it into the trials and stuff like that. And in the end, he decided to take a plea to say, okay, hey, let's just come to agreement on this. And the agreement and the plea that he took was to allow, if you could cover your first month rent, your last month's rent, and your deposit. That's the most analyzation that we have. Yes, it's risk in that to the business now, but so I want to fight New York, and we don't have to destroy our companies in the process of this, or even be in a opposition with even our tenants. We'll do it. We'll go along with how the renters laws and the leasing laws are in New York. So they did that. Not because he was a racist, not because it was against not allowing black people in. It was because it was a business model to make sure that whoever is renting and getting the leasing can effectively spend the third that it costs for their actual monthly income for their house. So meaning, and I'm using that as an example. Like if the rent is $1,200, if the rent is $1,200, you got to make $3,600. And that was the business model that they wanted. So the people could do what they need to do with their life and have fun and enjoy it and try to do whatever big thoughts they have, but they could cover their rent consistently, that the company don't to get destroyed and have to take out loans more and more and more because the people are not paying their rent. So that was his model, but the liberalism and the structure of New York made him have to say, hey, first month rent, last month's rent, and deposit, you good. So that's that fight. It wasn't about race. It was more about economic stability. Okay? The Central Park 5 people, there's 5 boys that got arrested. What they don't tell you is 20 to 30 boys, a bunch of boys got arrested that day. They were out there wilding out, being destructive. A lot of boys, I'm not saying the 5, but a lot of other teens and young people were out there in the parks and around the city, vandalizing, beating up on people, doing all kind of stuff. And so the cops decided to come in and arrest anybody that was doing any wild stuff in the parks, and it's the middle of the night and everything like that. Just go arrest these knucklehead young delinquents out there. So They did like a dragnet, just went in, arrested people, and then even these boys, they seen these boys in the park, they arrested all of them, brought them back to the precinct, questioned them about the stuff that they were doing and everything like that. One of the detectives, even to this day, he thinks they're guilty. Is a black police officer. He was investigating it and everything. He even to this day goes on CNN and he thinks I could bring this all up. Okay, he even thinks that that they're guilty. But make a long story short, he goes into one of the rooms with one of the boys and he starts to question him, and the boy thinks that they're there to arrest him about the girl. They didn't even know about the girl. That's not even what they arrest him. They arrest him for beating up on people and doing vandalism and doing delinquent stuff in the middle of the night and messing with people and stuff like that and beating up on people and stuff. That's what they was arresting these random delinquent boys running around in a park and outside in the city doing crazy stuff. So, but this boy, he started talking about this woman and he thinking that that's what the guy is coming to question him about. You get what I'm saying? And this is in the reporting. This is in the words of the police officer in his own mouth, okay? So, when they heard about this, some of the officers went back into the park and they found the girl beat up. She was pretty much bleeding out. She was still there in the creek. She was like still laying in the creek. You get what I'm saying? Not even been seen by the public that like was passing her by. She was messed up. She was out of it. They got her to the hospital. Police officers went back into the precinct. They questioned the boys about the girl now. So this is effectively, and their parents was there and they recorded this and took notes on it. That's why I can even report it. So this is the structure of the story. So for some reason, one of the boys knew something about this lady being there, but that's not part of the equation. The boy that decided to say that he did it on his own, you get what I'm saying? He admitted that he did it on his own and stuff like that. So it make the boys like they're innocent, and we all gotta treat them and respect them as being innocent. Why? Because the information, the boy taking accountability for the boys, he said that he did it alone. And he did it by himself, and he had none and the other boys to have anything to do. We have to look at it like that, because when they look at the evidence of and any DNA was left behind, the boy that admitted it, and he actually had the one that had DNA there. So it's got to be more likely true what he's saying. So it makes the boys innocent. But the history of the story is that the investigation of it led them to the guy from within the group of the boys and stuff. But all in all, the boys are innocent. They're out of jail. And the guy that did it, he's in jail. Okay? Trump, even before they caught the boys and the trial came, just to hear it about constant violence and crazy rapes and stuff like that that's going on in New York, he decided to take out an article in the New York, at the time, I don't think it was called New York Post. I actually got the article. Okay. Now I'm gonna mute this because I don't really wanna. I had actually got the article, I digitized it, and then I actually read it. You get what I'm saying? So if I have to bring it up, you know what I'm saying? But he did an article called Bring Back the Death Penalty, Bring Back Our Police. Okay? He did this article. And when you read the article, this is what they talking about. This is what they've been talking about, calling him a racist against the boys and all that stuff. This is what they talking about. It was not about the boy. It was about the constant crime for the years in New York. And he explained how, like, Arabic people, Hispanic people, black people, white people get attacked and violent stuff happening. And in the New York is so chaos. We gotta put the harsh penalties on these criminals in Detroit. Not in Detroit, in New York. The harsh penalties on the criminals in New York. That's what this article says. Okay? I'll show you that I actually read it. why it plays. Give me. Okay, we're gonna read this really quick. This is the article in 1989 for Donald J. Trump that he put into the newspaper after the Central Park rape, or the Central Park jogger rape. I think he did this in the New York Daily. So I'm gonna read his title: "Bring Back the Death Penalty. Bring Back Our Police. What has happened to our city over the past 10 years? What has happened to law and..." Okay, so I'm reading it. I'm not gonna take you guys through it right now. It's about 4 minutes me reading it, but I read the whole thing out to you. You know what I'm saying? I literally go to the end and read it out to you. But he took out this article just to pretty much talk about all the violence that was going on in New York in the 80s. Everybody know New York was terrible in the 80s. So when this rape happened and all the other stuff that was going on, and he took out the article, he didn't pinpoint on those boys. He talked about all the different crimes that was going on in New York, and that they need to actually have harsh punishment on all the criminals, and then they need to so if people kill somebody, throw the death penalty at them. You get what I'm saying? And it would scare people from committing violence. That's what the article was. But what happened? You got the black activists, and you have the media, the liberal media made it look like it was just for these guys, and it was general violence of New York. So it's out of context, and he's innocent on that situation. Okay? So I just want to let you guys know that I'm not just talking on my ass here. I'm really giving you data. Okay? And it will hold up to your own research. You go do the research, all the stuff that I'm saying to you, you'll find out that everything I'm saying holds up to snuff. You know what I'm saying? So, his Trump University was a actual class and seminars that he would give around the country or in New York and everything like that. That people that wanted to be like him, a successful person in the actual real estate, and wanted to become a really good real estate mogul and all that stuff like that, they would actually take these classes and these seminars and stuff like that, and he gives them booklets and information to kind of make sure they understand what he did and everything like that. If people, the reason why you come into the Trump University because you like what he was writing in his books and Art of the Deal, and you found that was useful in the business structure or how your mindset or what you wanted to be professional at, and then you took the Trump University that gave you more in-depth situation. He has people that work with him and under him and doing real estate and been successful at it. He has them teaching the classes and everything like that, and you're taking the seminars. Just like all these social influencers and these podcasters and Gary Gardone and all these people like that, and PBD and all them doing these seminars and these classes. It's exactly like that. And now you guys purchasing modules and all that stuff like that. And then so like what they sued him for and called a scam is what hundreds of thousands of internet like sellers are actually selling on the internet, and classes and modules and stuff like that. But Trump University was a seminars and the classes and things that he was teaching people how to do this real estate business like him. Now, some people loved it, some people didn't, because the people that didn't is the people that's coming out of the pool that's not going to be successful. Like everything, there's always a percentile that's going to be successful, and the majority of them not. And what did they find out? After you learn how to do real estate, and have a good model of doing real estate, and have the good mindset of doing it, now you need to go get seed funding. Now you need to go get the right powerful economical people to come in with you and financially give you stability, give you operation costs. You know what I mean? Even in my business, I'll be so pissed when I'm talking about getting money from investors or people that call themselves producers and executive producers, and they bitch and moan about $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. I just got to finish in multi-$100,000 movie. Don't give me no problems for no $5,000, no $3,000, no $600. Don't send no $200. Don't give me an issue with that, because I'm supposed to be asking for so much money that I got operation costs through anything I need to do. I don't even got to talk to you no more. I'm supposed to be actually asking up front for money so much from what I'm doing that I don't even need you. Because the pricing of me getting the stuff I'm accomplishing, it'll get that. But because I do, I have to squeeze you later. And if you don't want to get squeezed later, walk away. I keep ownership of everything. Bye. I ain't going in no contract with no loser. So that's what the situation is of the Trump University. People had to go out and get seed funding. They had to actually go get enough money to purchase HUD houses and flip them, or capital or HUD commercial real estate, and then flip it and stuff like that. And when they seen that they had to actually put on a suit, and they had to really, they had to make their company successful. They called it, oh, well, I'm not getting no fruit from it. I'm not really going to be successful from taking that class. Nah, that ain't. Now you putting another equation in a situation that was never part of the equation. But he was running for president, so he fought this lawsuit for years. He was not going to renege. He go look this up. He was not going to renege. He wanted them to be accountable for them being loser. Don't blame your loser persona on me. Go do what you got to do. You got the information. Go do it. But he was going to fight them straight through. He kept those people in court forever. He was fighting it all the way. But when he became president and the people said, no, we really want you to be president, he decided, you know what? For the love of the people, let's settle this, because the actual American people want me to become president. They really want. I got a lot of support that actually can make me president, and actually is supporting me to be president. I can't be dealing with this situation. So he told them to settle. So they settled for $25 million. Of course, he got $25 million, and that's the situation with Trump University. Okay, now it brings you to 2016. Okay, what? Because of the settlement of the thing, and plus 2016 comes. He's running for president. He's doing what he's doing. Stormy Daniels start to try to leak that she has sex with him and stuff, and he's like, I ain't had sex with that girl and stuff like that, and he denies it and everything like that, and he called her horse face and all that stuff like that. It's all out there, okay? And so he denies it and everything like that. And he didn't want to pay her nothing. She started her lawyer tried to extort him to try to get him to pay her money, keep her mouth closed. Otherwise, she was gonna come out through the campaign and talk about that he had sex with her. He didn't care. I ain't have sex with you. I don't care what you gonna say. Have fun. You get what I'm saying? His lawyer, his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, he decided, hey man, you don't really want this situation out there like that. If I can get this lady to shut her mouth, then I do it. Trump like, man, I don't think you should even mess around with her. I don't think you should pay her to lie like that. You get what I'm saying? So Trump didn't want to pay. He thought he was doing something personal for him. And this is what the evidence showed. So he took it upon himself to put $140,000 mortgage on his house. A loan on his house. Because obviously he getting paid good money. You know what I mean? He went into a NDA. This is the Trump's lawyer. Personal lawyer Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen goes into a personal NDA with Stormy Daniels. He takes a loan out on his house. The lawyer takes a loan out on his house. He pays Stormy Daniels $140,000. Now it's the action amount from her and her lawyer. Her lawyer was talking to his lawyer. He took it upon himself to pay that personally not from Trump. They got no evidence that Trump organization or Trump sent his lawyer $140,000 to pay her for the NDA. Though it's no problem for him to do that. That's illegal. But they saying at the time of the election, he was trying to keep her quiet. No, the lawyer was trying to keep her quiet because all the evidence shows that he tried to keep her quiet. So the lawyer, Michael Cohen, gives her $140,000, signed the NDA. You cannot say that's an NDA between Trump and Stormy Daniels because it was done without the signature in knowledge of signature by Trump. In order to say that Trump is a part of this negotiation and this interaction, you have to have him sign the NDA and her sign the NDA, and then the actual lawyer administrates it. Okay, but it was an administration of the lawyer and Stormy Daniels. Okay, so the life of that NDA is between the lawyer and Stormy Daniels. Okay, the porn star. So that happened. Comes Trump end up winning the presidency of 2016. As he's the president, he's sitting at the desk in the Oval Office. He still signs a signature for any amounts that gets sent out for the company. For the Trump organization, he still needs to sign it. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't like money just going out of the accounts of the Trump organization without his approval. You get what I'm saying? So they bring that to the Oval Office. He opens the book. He sees the checks because they print them out like an actual check. And the checks are voided if he don't sign them. And he puts a big void over. So he does this a lot. He literally looks at the checks that they have in there and he say, I'm not paying them. Void. Oh, I'm paying them, and he'll sign it. He does this, okay? So, and he gives the book back to his company person, whoever came to the Oval Office, and that's how they actually mail out the checks. Okay, so when the checks come to him, he see Michael Cohen, and he knows that he got him as his personal lawyer during his term, during his presidency. He's his personal lawyer. So this is in 2017 when all this is going on. He's already took the oath of office. He's in. Okay, so for Michael Cohen, it shows that it's a year or multiple $35,000 a month, because that's his monthly retainer for him to have that lawyer, and it has him over multiple $35,000 checks up to 12 months, and that's pretty much a year of income. So it came up to a total of $420,000. He signs them, they went get back to the person, they go by this way. Okay. Comes 2020, they need to get rid of Trump. They trying to stop him from becoming president again. All the impeachments and all that stuff didn't work, and the investigation of him being the Russian stooge and all that stuff. All this lies and manipulation and propaganda and CIA espionage against this one man. That's real. I'm telling you guys the truth. And I'm not just saying that out of rhetoric. I have data, facts, and proof of this. So comes this investigation. So during 2019, they arrest and subpoena his lawyer because he has a taxi company and he has taxes on the taxi company that he didn't pay, and they ready to throw the book at him. So they bring him in, they arrest him, they say like, hey, give us something on Trump. Give us something on Trump. You know, he goes to another lawyer to say, hey, they want me to give stuff out on Trump, but I don't have nothing on him. He ain't do nothing wrong. He didn't do any legal stuff. I don't have nothing on him. What should I do, and what should I do? He actually went to the lawyer, and the lawyer's on record saying it. Okay, so he decides, okay, man, you don't even care if what happens to me. That these guys they hate you so much that they trying to arrest me for you, but I could get out of this. Hey, you not getting arrested for Trump. You getting arrested from the taxi medallions and the actual tax income that you didn't pay for your taxi cab company. You idiot. This ain't got nothing to do with Trump. But he made it about Trump. Well, if you're going to stand by and watch me get destroyed, then I'm going to say anything. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And he says this out on interviews and everything. I'm going to do everything not to go to jail. And that's what he ended up doing. He ended up coming up with, okay, I paid this porn star for him do the election time to stop him from becoming, to keep her quiet. Okay? So they used that. And they indict Trump and his organization because when they went to go take the subpoena and they went to go look at the payment for him, it just says legal fees. It says legal expense on the ledger that his accounting, that Trump organization accounting team, is a lady that does the accounting, and she logs the checks that they sent out. And she put any payment that she got from Michael Cohen, she put it under legal expense because he's a lawyer and he's Trump's lawyer, and whatever work he's doing, he's not giving a document saying what he's specifically doing. He's sending an invoice from a law firm because he's a retainer. He got a retainer that they got to pay him out with the invoice. So it's a legal expense. So they said that the $420,000 was Trump paying him for the $140,000 NDA that he signed with. You don't got no factual proof of that. All you got is an invoice coming from Michael Cohen to Trump Organization saying legal expense $35,000 over the course of 12 months. You have Trump signing $35,000 expense totaling $35,000 a month for 12 months. That's all you got, $420,000. Because the lawyer said that it was for Stormy Daniels. Okay, okay, let's say he took $140,000 out. And then let's say he doubled that. It's $280,000 because he didn't want to pay for the taxes. Okay, you still got about $160,000 left over. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, where's that? What's the other money for? Only factual evidence to show what the other money for is that the $420,000 is for $35,000 spread across 12 months. That's what the truth is. That's what the facts is. And this is how destructive our country is. You have liberal juries that found him guilty, saying the perception of the prosecutor is that it's for Stormy Daniels and he just paid you extra. The perception of the jury is that it's from Stormy Daniels, but he just paid you triple extra. The media's perception is that it's for Stormy Daniels, so he just paid you triple extra. And a liberal citizenry in New York thinks it's for Stormy Daniels, but it just paid you extra, so you're guilty on all charges. And how they itemized the checks and the logging of the checks came up to 34 counts found guilty on that he could be sentenced for 134 years. That's the situation of the Stormy Daniels, of the accounting situation, and him going to court and been convicted. Along with that case, New York, you got to understand, guys, and I know I'm jumping a little bit, but in the midst of all this case, bringing cases upon him, in 2022, they had to put a law into New York that anybody accuses anybody of a essay, which YouTube weak, and they want us to say essay, not sexual assault, but essay. You know what I mean? Anytime, no matter if it's past the statute of limitation, they pass the bill to make it that you can actually civil sue someone, or you could criminalize someone if it's within a certain confine, and you got 2 years to do this. Okay, so since 2022 to 2024, that's why you got all these cases that came in out of New York. Weinstein, Trump, some rappers, even P. Diddy fell into this, and other celebrities and powerful people. People just start coming up and saying that they did stuff. One of the people, the only lady, or let's say a lady that, I gotta see, this is so messy and I'm trying to keep it in a soundbite-ish way, but I do discredit for the truth of it if I do that. Joe Biden's campaign manager has a partner, because he's still part of the law firm, has a partner in a law firm that took this lady called E. Jean Carroll and her allegation And he didn't take it. He actually went to her. They sent the law firm out because she was always on Twitter talking bad about Trump and saying bad stuff about Trump and accusing him about stuff, because she took a picture with him around hundreds and thousands of people in a gala. You get what I'm saying? And so far, she said, "Well, I got a picture with him, so I could just make up that he saw me at a clothing store and he tried to sexually assault me in a essay me inside of a change room." Trump said, I never met this lady. And they said, well, you got this picture of her at this gala. Well, look, I take pictures with hundreds of people. I don't know this lady like that. But the allegation and the lawyer, they got endless amount of funding for her to prosecute him for this and stuff like this. So and try to put a lawsuit on him for this. So they did a lawsuit for defamation of her because he called her ugly and he said that he never touched her and she ain't his type and stuff like that. The jury finds him guilty for talking about her like that. You know what I'm saying? And then she won the lawsuit, and then he said, and then the media kept asking him about it, saying, "Well, you've been found liable for such a sexual assault of a lady." But he's like, "Man, this is crazy. I don't know this lady. I never met her before, and she's not my type. I don't even like her." He even did this in a deposition. They had the nerve to have a deposition of a president on some crazy window stuff because they put a law in place to try to prosecute him on this. So you had the New York district attorney, the city council members, the actual Congress of New York, and you had the Joe Biden's manager, campaign manager, in his partnership with his actual law firm, partner all up to bring a sexual assault fake ass essay thing on Trump for this garbage looking lady, E. Jean Carroll. Okay. You know, so in that situation, he got to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court to prove his innocent. Okay. The reason why I'm saying it, because one, she's saying that this happened 20 to 30 years ago, and she would have been about 60 years old when that happened. Late 50s, early 60s when it happened. Everybody know Trump. Ain't no way in hell he's having sex with a beautiful Playboy bunny in 2006, in the hypothetical Stormy Daniels or something like that, and he could do probably better. And his wife was pregnant, Melania, at the time. So before that, this issue happened in the early 90s, that this is supposed to have happened. And you think he would have got this old decrepit lady? No, this is ridiculous, y'all. But he's got to fight it all the way up. In order for them to put the real factual evidence in, he got to fight it all the way up to the appellate court. And then he got to fight it up to the Supreme Court. If the appellate court is a bunch of liberals and they're not going to stay focused on, this is the problem with our country, y'all. No matter how much you hate Trump, no matter what you dislike about Trump, you are not, as a judge, you are not allowed for the destruction of our constitutional rights and the law. You are the referee from the prosecutor, the grand jury, and the jury. That's what a judge is. You make sure these idiots do not just destroy a citizen and an individual human being's right under the Constitution. That's what a judge purpose is. That you have a retarded jury that's making a bad decision because they too dumb and they can't comprehend the case and the evidence. Because you got a dumb prosecutor that's radical and emotional and they doing the prosecution, and you got a grand jury that their whole job is to vet and hold the prosecutor accountable, but they could just indict a ham sandwich. That's the psychosis of our country now. A grand jury is there. You're supposed to pick smart and intelligent people, well-read people to do a grand jury, well-comprehending people to do a grand jury. Why? Because they got to vet and they got to make sure the prosecutor and the detectives are bringing them valid information, or whoever's doing the case bringing them valid information to give them an indictment. That's how powerful a grand jury is. But what we hear in this country, a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. And we all think that sounds good. Or there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that thought process. It's ridiculous. We have a destructive country. And that's why I say injustice. That's why you see me in my thumbnail, it says injustice under the law has been confirmed. Meaning that our laws are unjust if it's not equal to every single human being that ever was prosecuted. And we know we got too much data now. We got people that was wrongfully convicted, wrongfully charged, wrongfully prosecuted because of their race and different situations and all this stuff. We got too much data to show that people lied under the even like the lacrosse team with the stripper and stuff like that, and that she comes out 10 to 20 years later saying that it was a lie. It's too much. I'm just giving you an example. It's thousands and tens of thousands of cases through our country exist since 250 years almost to say that we got a shitty justice system. And they say, well, it's the best. It's the best than anybody. Nah, it's worse. We a joke. We're a joke. Because we got a constitution that guarantees we don't get these mistakes. These mistakes should be very minute. But it's average. It's average now. It's ridiculous. So, make a long story short, and I'm trying to give you guys data before we go into the clips and we start talking about him, the sentencing of him for this New York case and everything like that. So he gets found guilty. He talks about the lady. They try him again because he kept calling her ugly and stuff like that, and they put him under actual indictment again. And this time they sued him. He was found guilty again. That's 24 citizens of New York found him guilty on something that has no evidence. It's 30 years old and it's ridiculous. It has no factual evidence of this, but they found him guilty again because they didn't like that he called her out her name. They defamed her because he's a celebrity calling her ugly. So they find him guilty again, and the liberal judge awarded her $80,000. The liberal judge awarded her $80 million now. So it's a total of $83 million that they actually awarded her. Okay, he's fighting this up to the appellate court. So even to this day, they made him have to put the actual money up for collateral so he could fight to the appellate court, and they got taken up to the Supreme Court in order to get his rights back in the value of him. Okay, so the appellate court found him recently, just found him that that pretty much that he got to pay her $5 million or something like that, but he's still fighting the first $5 million to the second 80 to the actual it's another case I'm about to go into right now. So that's how that situation looked. No evidence, no factual data that they ever been in the same place like that at the same time. But he's just got accused, and he's got Joe Biden's campaign managers, firm partners, going to E. Jean Carroll, funding her for free to prosecute Trump, that he essayed her because of a law that they put in place 2 years ago, and they put in place for 2 years, that you could be indiscriminately accusing people, and they would actually bring the indictment. But really, they put the law in place to only bring Trump. It just cause and effect. A lot of other people went into there, and a lot of other law firms try to find ways to get paid off of the stuff. It's disgusting. It really is. Second case, technically third, because we already talked about the Stormy Daniels one. But you got the E. Jean Carroll, you got the Stormy Daniels, and you got the second case that was brought on. And it was New York accusing him of overinflating the value of Trump organization and Trump company, meaning that the properties values that he said for his golf course or the Trump Tower or the Mar-a-Lago or companies in Ireland or all the other different companies, the wine company, the different clothing, towel companies, whatever the stuff that they got under the umbrella of Trump organization, they said that he overinflated the value of it. You know what I'm saying? For example, the Mar-a-Lago, the property that he has in Florida, they estimate that property to be about 800 to $1 billion, a little bit over $1 billion. But New York prosecutors in New York values that property at $18 million. He says as a chandelier that they got in the actual facility, that's that $18 million. You get what I'm saying? So they value it. New York values that at $18 million, and they're not even going to go to appraisals in Florida. They're not even going to talk to the government of Florida. They just going to say that they want to say he overvalued. So technically, it's an illegal prosecution. So they prosecute him on this. Okay, the judge hates him to death. Hates him with passion. He actually rules he's guilty before the trial starts. So they go through the trial. I don't understand it still to this day why Trump and his people went through it, but I guess they wanted to get it on record what they thought. All the banks that loaned him money with the actual the valuation of their estimate people, they said, no, we have no problem with Trump and the Trump organization. We made a lot of money off of him. We want to keep doing business with Trump. He's good. He's good with us. So they don't even have a plaintiff, a victim. It's New York saying that he overvalued it. The banks got to say he overvalued it because they're the ones who's giving him the money for other investments or other stuff that he wants to do with the valuation of the companies. But they're saying, no, we love him. We made money off of these deals. We got no issue with Trump. He's on paid on time. He's good. They literally came on the stand and said this. But New York hates him, and we don't care what the truth is. And they literally the judge found him guilty before the trial started. And it was a bench judge, so he don't even have a jury ruling out this verdict. It was the judge did. And there was a judge that the prosecutor picked and the district attorney picked. So this guy hates him, and they listened to the trial for nothing because the verdict was already shown by the judge when he told him that he was guilty, and he placed the verdict. There's a way that a judge can place his verdict before the trial starts, which I don't understand. And New York is such a shitty place. So when the trial was over with, the judge awarded New York $450 million. Okay? After they awarded him, the prosecutor said, if he don't have that $50 million right now, at this certain day, we're gonna take control of all this company assets and everything like that. Crazy stuff. Okay? The appellate court decided, they weighed on it. They didn't like how it was handled. They didn't like the case. They even argued as to how illegitimate the case was. So most likely he's about to win the appellate court on that. And they ruled that he only had to put $171 million up for collateral. So now you got the $171 million, and you have the $83 million for the other case with the other lady. Okay, let me add that up. So $240 million, $254 million that he has to put up to show in order for him to fight it up to the Supreme Court, from the courts to the appellate courts to the Supreme Court. So he put it up. Obviously, he had it. He said he wanted to use it for his campaign, but he had it. You get what I'm saying? If he was going to blow it on his campaign, that means he got 3 times the amount of that somewhere, cash flow in his bank. So it was never a problem. So the question, all these people that hate Trump, if you got a if you got all these prosecutors and media and these vindictive people to turn against Trump, what if he got enough money to fight y'all, to fight you in court, to purchase lawyers to fight on his behalf? What if he got that? The truth is going to come out. And that's what's been happening for the last 4 to 12 years. Okay? So, after that case, they brought this case of him with the records of calling an NDA in the ledger instead of calling it a legal expense, which is a legal expense because it's work that a lawyer did. Even if it's true, let's say that it's true, okay? And it's not. Let's say that it's true. If a lawyer did some crazy NDA signing with a person to shut their mouth about something, that's not illegal. He could do that. He has every right to do it. Under the election violation laws, you could be found liable or criminalized for something that you pay for that could only be paid for because it's an election thing that needs to be paid for. If you do something that if you pay for something that could be that he could say, hey, I didn't want my wife to find out. That would have made me look bad. Would he have done it if he wasn't running for president? If the answer is yes, then it's not illegal and it's not a campaign violation. That's the way that works. And guess what? That's how the federal election violation said it worked. Said it was. They decided, nope, we're not bringing no charges on this. This not got nothing to do with us. But New York did it. Okay? And the conversation is that this lawyer said he did that on the behalf of Trump. I don't care what you say. That's what you're saying right now while you about to go to jail for tax evasion. That means you don't have any credibility because you're under tax evasion and you're a liar, and it's fine. They found out that you lied about so much other stuff, and you're recording your clients, and you got disbarred. You got no credibility. But New York wanted him. And those 12 juries, they fell into it. Okay? So the jury finds him guilty. 134 years possible in jail. And that brings us to today, where we playing these clips. Because now the judge decided, before you become president again, before you take an oath of office, I'm going to sentence you. I'm going to sentence you. Okay? So that's where we at right now. Sorry for going over that. That was about an hour and 50 minutes of bloviating. But if people can't talk to you without playing clips and stuff, they're bad podcaster. They're bad informative information or people to communicate to you because they need other stuff to drive you. But I'm giving you data, information, and I'm able to articulate myself about what's going on through the whole. I just took you to probably 20, 30 years of Trump. 40 probably. From the 1970s, really. Okay? So let's get into the clips. Let me make sure everything is good. Okay. Let's go.
Supreme Court just a short time ago refusing to stop Donald Trump from being sentenced on 34 felony counts tomorrow morning. It is a ruling that came down 5-4 with Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Amy Coney Barrett joining the court's liberals and the majority here. That means that the president-elect, 10 days before he is going to take the oath of office, will formally be sentenced tomorrow as a convicted felon for essentially cooking the books to cover up hush money payments made to a porn star.
See how she says that? That lets you know her bias is. And this is CNN. And look, I got to give you guys all spectrums. Liberal, conservative. I got to give it to you because I can't be biased. I got to give you the data. I got to listen to them say this, articulate this stuff in the most heinous and subjective way and let you understand this person is an anchor and she thinks she's kind of giving a perception that she's giving legitimate news. Okay? This is what we have to, this is the work we have to do, okay? So I'm just saying, I'm kind of heartbroken because I got to fight the people on this too. The people are so disgusting and dumb that people like this have validation in our society and reporting, and they get paid hundreds of millions of dollars, and they got good apparatus. Me, I got to beg you guys to hit the likes, hit the follow, hit the subscriptions, click on them, and then please go into my Venmo and my PayPal and put $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever you can. Put it in. Put it in there. I gotta beg you guys to do that. Okay? Rumble, YouTube, bouncing between them, trying to figure out the algorithm. It's a lot. And these people get to go sit on there and they plan at airports and all this stuff, and they bias. And she saw, he cooking the books, calling a lawyer's work on the behalf of the client a legal expense in a accounting ledger. You guys say they did it, his company, his accounting person did it, and his lawyer did that for him to cover his sex with this porn star. When did Trump hide who he has sex with? Ever. You know what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous, So in that situation, you have where cooking the books is no way my accounting will put NDA expense. Well, you got to explain why you're giving $20,000 for $140,000 NDA. It's ridiculous. It's a lawyer. Whatever he's doing on me, that's client, confidential client information between the lawyer and his client. So ain't no way in hell you should be sending an invoice, or my accounting team should be logging my personal endeavors with my actual lawyer as a specific in an accounting ledger. And the lawyer, the person that's trying to hem Trump up, told a prosecutor, told people that so he wouldn't get put in jail for the tax evasion, that he took out a $140,000 loan and did the NDA with the lady on the behalf of Trump, but he don't got no evidence of it. And even if he had evidence of a conversation between them, it doesn't mean that he gave him money to do that. Why? Because you didn't send an invoice to the accounting team, and the county didn't cut a check on the behalf of the amount that you sent for the $140,000. You're sending increments of $35,000 because that's how much you get paid a month for your retainer fee as his personal lawyer. And so we got 12 months of payment that showed $35,000 payment as a retainer of his lawyer, and that's the only way we can account what the $420,000 is for. Everything else is speculation. Everything else is theorizing. Everything else is an idealism. It is not facts. So how did he cook the books? Listen to this, y'all. This lady got hundreds of billions of dollars behind her doing this.
That means that the president-elect, 10 days before he is going to take the oath of office, will formally be sentenced tomorrow as a convicted felon for essentially cooking the books to cover up hush money payments made to a porn star.
We're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case. So I'll do my little thing tomorrow. They can have fun with their political opponent.
That was Donald Trump tonight at Mar-a-Lago speaking to reporters right after the Supreme Court order came down. I'm going to get right to CNN's Ellie Honig, who is joining me here. Ellie, you see Donald Trump. He is at Mar-a-Lago there. That means he is going to be appealing virtually appearing virtually tomorrow. We'll get to that in a moment. But on this decision, everyone was waiting to see what it said. Even people in Trump world that I've been talking to were kind of divided on whether or not the Supreme Court was going to take their side. Were you surprised by this?
I was surprised it was this close, Caitlin. We were one vote away from the U.S. Supreme Court preventing Donald Trump from getting sentenced by Zoom to nothing. I mean, that would have damaged the Supreme Court's credibility beyond all recognition. And I think the opinion that came down 5-4, letting the sentencing go, I think it was perfectly sound. Basically, the justices in the majority said two things. First of all, they said, what's the harm? You're going to get sentenced to 0. You can do it by Zoom. You can roll out of bed and do it. And second of all, you do maybe have substantial issues. I think he has substantial issues on appeal, but you can handle them through the full appeal process that will follow your sentencing.
They're saying you don't need to do this right now. There are normal channels to handle this through, but Trump just doesn't want it to happen before he becomes president.
And you know what's maybe ironic about it? Trump actually gets a benefit by being sentenced tomorrow, which is once that sentencing is over, as of tomorrow morning, then he can take his full appeals. He can go up the New York courts of appeals. He can go maybe to the U.S. Supreme Court and say the charge against me was unconstitutional, which I think it may be. He can say that the jury was not properly instructed. But if he had gotten his way, if he was not sentenced tomorrow, he would not have been able to appeal. That would have been it. So this sentence would have sort of died in netherworld.
Well, and part of their argument had been that it was going to be too tough for him to get sentenced tomorrow, that he couldn't show up to the sentencing in New York. The justices made a point, the 5 who ruled that this could happen, and said that it was relatively insubstantial in light of what the court is saying that they're going to do, which is to impose that sentence of unconditional discharge. And it's a brief virtual hearing. He doesn't have to be there in person tomorrow.
So this was a smart move by Judge Merchan, because he said last week, I'm going to sentence you to essentially nothing, and you can do it by Zoom. If Merchan had not done that, if he just said, appear for sentencing Friday, it'll be like any other sentencing, you don't know what you're going to get until I tell you, that might have changed the Supreme Court.
And this is something else I want to say, because I always got to remember to let you guys know, because you guys may not know the history, and you listen to this podcast and you say, okay, everybody's talking about this and they've already heard everything. I'm giving you detailed data of where we came from to where we at now, okay? But even Trump playing his hand about even just fighting for the Supreme Court to weigh in into the case, it's not so much for them to stop the judge from making his sentencing ruling. It's also for the validity of the case to be taken up by the Supreme Court. Also, it's a win-win for Trump because he's innocent, and the way that they prosecuted this case is just it's disgusting. And I gave you guys so much data that now you understand it, and when you read, you're gonna see that it all falls into my narrative, okay? But at the same time, it's disgusting, and it's just ridiculous, and it's incompetent how they went about all this, okay? So, in saying that, he doesn't. Even if the judge saying like an unconditional discharge, which we gonna talk about that because that's just ridiculous. Okay, I'll lunch up about that when the time comes. But it's just a terrible prosecution, and it shows you that our judicial system is destroyed, and you can't rely on police officers because police officers they have to abide by the statutes that's in law. And law, we have corrupt congressmen and senators that put stuff on the books, statutes on the books that law enforcement, and we got city council members and local congressmen and local senators that put stuff into the statutes of the states, and then the city council members, and then the U.S. Senators and U.S. Congress representatives, and then presidents sign that stuff into law. These are illegal. I'm telling you, we have thousands of redundant laws and laws that are on the books that we're being prosecuted on, that we've been pretty much monitored on by the local law enforcement, meaning that these laws are against 3 constitutional rights that they always will end up falling under, either the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, or the Fifth Amendment. First Amendment, because you can say and communicate anything you want. You know, to say, oh, you can't yell fire in a crowded room. Yes, I can. It's my freedom of speech to do that. That's a law, and that you could be prosecuted on some stupid shit like that is just ridiculous. You get what I'm saying? That a Fourth Amendment right is that a grand jury can give an actual subpoena to a prosecutor and police officers to come into your house to find evidence on you to prosecute you, and you hold the evidence. The only way that they can prove that you did a crime or whatever the situation that they're trying to indict you on is that they have to get rights from a judge to say it's okay to violate this person's Fourth Amendment right, search and seizure. If you can't find out and get evidence of something I did from exterior entities, then you got a problem. But that we put in law that black city council members, black senators, black council members, black state representatives, black state senators, governors, and senators and presidents have decided that they gonna put in law a statute that judges can overrule your Fourth Amendment right because the perception that is most likely you did something and it's in your facility, it's in your house, it's in your phone, it's in your pockets, it's in your car, and we could pull you over, we could search your stuff and get evidence that the only way that we would have got it is we would have had to take it from you against your will. That's against your Fourth Amendment right. Your Fifth Amendment right is that an FBI agent can walk up on you, a police officer or anybody can walk up on you that's law enforcement under some weird statute of the state or the city or whatever, and they can question you. And if you tell them a lie that they can prove that was a lie from investigation or investigations that made some up to that you told them a lie, that you can that you did that they can prosecute you now that you told them a lie, and that I forgot the section they call it. I gotta look it up. I gotta put it upside. But number one, there's a statute that the FBI's run hardcore on. That's why you see them prosecute Trump people with it, and a lot of the January 6th people they prosecute under this stuff that a FBI agent asked them a question or communicated with them, and they found out that they didn't tell the truth, a whole truth, or they found that it was what they perceive as a lie, so they prosecute them for 5 years, up to 5 years. They could do it for a year or two. It's people that's been in there since January 2021, dude. And if you looked at them up, these are people that felt like pretty much like F you. I'm not telling you nothing. I'm not pleading guilty to nothing. I did nothing wrong. And they threw the book at them. And they had the right to put them in there and hold them in there because a FBI agent walked up to you, asked you a certain question, and you didn't tell the truth. And we gave citizens, black Americans, black senators, black Congress members, and I keep saying black because I want to make sure if black people are so goddamn dumb to vote for Democrats for the last 50 to 70 years at 92%, 100% of the times that they voted 92% or more for a Democrat, I gotta always put you in the equation of how your senators, your Congress representative, the people that you say you trust, or the people like you, actually put a statute in place that an FBI agent can walk up to you, question you, even if you had no intention to lie to the FBI agent, but you fell into a untruthful situation or misremembered or a lie, that they can actually prosecute you for 5 years, and they can use that to make you communicate some other stuff or give them other information that helps them with their case or whatever endeavor they're doing. That's against your Fifth Amendment right. That senators, congressmen, and I would blame every single one from the day that it got put in law all the way to now, because you got senators, congressmen, presidents, city council members. They all are supposed to be the checks and balances of anything that goes against our constitutional right. But guess what? The FBI and all the agents, that's why I say the whole thing is corrupt. They're supposed to be the check and balance on any organization in the federal government or even in the states that goes against a person's constitutional rights. The FBI is supposed to come in on the behalf of the citizen to investigate, are you prosecuting this person fairly and rightfully? But because we gave so much power to the government, we ain't got time to check everybody. But that's why they got FBI agents in every single city and state. Just in case a citizen's rights get violated. That's what it's for. So I say this because you guys watch this and you watch them pontificate over this stuff, but it's a lot of the equation. That's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. But they got evidence of him. That's why even the guy, he don't like him. He's a liberal. He's on a liberal network. And he's saying, hey, this case was not right for them to even bring on. But he's got to commentate to this lady that hates Trump. And so he's got to somewhat pander and find in the middle. And the way that he conducts himself on this panel, it's the psychosis of men over the last 40 years. And we're finding out that we're getting smacked and we're getting destroyed because we gave too much leverage to women, to feminists, too much leverage and up mobility, and we subdued ourselves so much where we don't even know how to be men no more. And it's almost like you got to let 2 generations die out in order for some correction to be coming to play. It's ridiculous. I know. That's a lot of information. I know.
It's calculus, because Trump's argument was, I could be subject to what we call irreparable harm. And if Trump was able to say, I don't know, maybe this guy's going to try to lock me up. Maybe he's going to impose some serious penalty. Maybe I don't have the time as president-elect to travel to New York and sit in a courtroom and go through security. Instead, Mershon absolutely minimized that.
Okay, so he appears virtually via, I'll call it Zoom. I don't even know what it is for the court system. When you get sentenced, you have an option to say something, right?
You just hit on what the biggest point is going to be to watch for tomorrow. Any defendant at sentencing absolutely has a right to speak. Almost always they do. So Trump might say, I have nothing to say, Your Honor, or he might give us a rant. I mean, I would bet on that because, look, he's got nothing to lose. He knows he's getting sentenced to nothing. So
even
watch
if he speaks before the sentencing and goes off on the judge, which he does and did tonight, that won't change how Mershon sentences him?
Mershon left himself a tiny bit of wiggle room, right? He didn't say, I promise I will sentence you. He said, I intend to sentence you. But I think it would take an awfully lot to push Mershon from sentence you to unconditional discharge to...
It's a sentencing. So he can't change his mind on the documents because he got to have the documents already ready. This is the sentencing situation. So, like, he's got to have it pre-written and pre-logged. You get what I'm saying? And obviously Trump is a billionaire, highly successful, highly accomplishable man in all facets of our country. When I wear this hat, I ain't no sucker. I ain't no wannabe or some like I'm under the hypnosis of Trump. Or I'm a fool with no identity. When I wear this hat, it's a big fuck you to all you people that don't like me wearing a hat. Why? Because you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. You're part of the destruction of your own families, your own friends and community. Let's not even worry about the country. You're the part of the problem. Why? Because the answers to all of the people around you, your friends and your family, is you guys vying together, coming together, and fighting the thing that's trying to destroy you and take from you. The bigger society, the big mogul people. We have social influencers and podcasters that get so much money on their super chats and all the stuff that they doing that they taking their money. And a person in the city, they lose their house because they just can't keep up with things. And the economic situation, the inflation is so brutal, they lose their house. And these new cryptocurrency guys, these podcasters, these social influencers, they come in and take from the little people that bust their ass, that live their life. They did not commit a lot of crime or not no crime at all and anything. And they pick their bones to the only like accomplishments or gain of equity value in their life because it's an opportunity to get. Like, I don't have to pay $500,000 for this car. I can get this car for at an auction for $100,000. This car costs $100,000. I can get this car for $20,000. This house is worth about $180,000. I can get this house for $40,000. And they're there to pick the bones of the little people. You ain't got to worry about Blackstone, Chase, and JP Morgan picking your bones and taking from the city people and the inner city and the people that's trying to butt off and they losing stuff because the economic situation of their life is not fruitful and the people around them don't make enough money and it's just a bunch of weak ass people around them that the community can't even lean on each other. The business people can't even lean on the people they're supposed to be in business with because there's a bunch of weak motherfuckers around them. But you got these new influencers and podcasters and like middle class to higher class people. They growing their wealth and growing their capitalism and growing their legacy on picking the bones of the people that can't keep up with everything because they're not making six figures. Or at the least, they're not taking the $40,000 and the $40,000 that each other's making and to make up a $80,000 household. They not coming together and finding a strategy to beat everybody outside that household. They don't think like that. So, black people, you are really shitty at it. If you understand the statistics and the numbers, you understand that right now, sitting in America, that they will actually tell us, not what's true, but what they would tell us, is 65 million Hispanics that's in this country. And the black Americans is 47. We've been here from the inception of building this country, and we're 47 million Americans, black Americans that live in this country. And in 20 to 30 years, Hispanic population has doubled, almost doubled our demographic in this country. Nothing to say about the Hispanic people. Y'all do what y'all doing. Y'all got laws, power. You got politicians. You got presidents kowtowing to you. You got companies like submitting to you. You do your thing. Y'all do your thing. Black people, we're so weak and just ridiculous that we became third class citizen going into the fourth class. We're like, I don't even know what's going on. And when I have to take a bird's eye look at this and I have to move on this, it's like, man, you sabotage yourself if the majority of your stuff is some mindset of a unification with the black American because you're a black American. You destroy yourself. And look, I told myself I never, ever, ever was going to touch a movie in Michigan. I told myself that in 2018. Why? Because I watched how people make movies in Michigan. I watched how the business of it is like so ridiculous, and it's a lack of entrepreneurship, true business. It's a bunch of rhetoric. It's a bunch of emotions and who talk the loudest and who barks the loudest. That's actually getting a lot of the actual effectiveness of how the film industry and the business acumen of the inner city film business is. And that ain't enough for me to make a movie here. If I make a movie here, I gotta totally be on top of all that stuff when I start. I end up having to do that coming right in. I didn't even want to touch a movie till like 2003 and 2018. First year out, really into the business of it, I had to do a movie. Fast forward to now, I did about 6. I got about another 3 that I actually did, and they're on Tubi and all that stuff like that. So I had a part of them. I don't own them, but the other 6, I own them. Okay? But my point of that is to say it's ridiculous. ridiculous how we subdue ourselves and how we allow ourselves to become third class to fourth class citizen in a country we built. Why? Because we spent all our time, Black Americans, we spent all our time, all our money destroying each other and killing each other. We put a lot of our IQ, our abilities, our skill, our mindset, and finding a way to not grow each other, grow the community, put power and aggressiveness in our community. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm pretty good on this. I don't see it stopping no time soon. And trust me, I put my hands so deep into it. Nice Black people, polite Black people, Christian Black people, passive Black people. You know what I mean? To the drug dealers, to dark people, the bitter people, the arrogant people, business people. I did it all. And I know every one of them. I went deep into the interaction with them. And I'm telling you, it's every man for themselves in the Black community. And if they can, they give you the false perception of unification and community. And if you go further, they got you. And all along, it was always there. It was just so, it's so highlighted, it's so neon, it's so blatant. Why did you do it? Because you're the only one in the room that's trying to, like, hey man, let's try to do something together. Nah. Look at the data. Look how you articulate yourself. Look at how you do your business. The only outcome I'm gonna get is how you did your business. So I say this to all the people that even like want me to put my films on Tubi and Amazon Prime and all that stuff. How you want me to put on, you know. One, you gotta own enough percentage of it to tell me what to do. Okay? And I ain't that dumb to sign that over to nobody. You get what I'm saying? You know, so the one, you gotta do that. Two, you gotta be a better business person than me not to buy you out. You know what I'm saying? And most people, I ain't gave you enough percentage. I ain't gave you enough percentage for I ain't gave you enough percentage for a certain amount that I can't buy you out. You know what I'm saying? $6,000, $2,000, 15 grand. I can erase you on a presentation. Go in a room with an investor. Say, hey, I give you this amount of percentage for this amount. 20, 30 grand, I erase everybody. 20, 30 grand. If I got power to erase anybody out of even telling me, talking to me about anything with 20, 30 grand, y'all ain't playing the game right. But that's the Black community. And I know I'm talking about Trump in this situation, but I want you guys to understand the mindset of this, of how information is communicated to us. And we're sitting around as podcasters and we can't articulate how the big industry is wrong on our podcast because we want to put ourselves into the equation. And I know I just did that, but I wanted to show you an example of how much you have to fight for pure individual perspective. I'm giving you my individual perspective. And what I'm saying is some of this stuff is crazy and it's rude and it's long talking and everything, but it's objective. It's truthful. It is what it is. And I'm telling you, we have to fight back our system. You got 4 years to do this, y'all. You got 4 years to get your money right because you're not going to have people in your way. You're not going to have laws in the way to stop you from actually capitalizing on partnership and doing stuff. I don't even have faith that I can actually partner with Black people where I'm going. Of course, I got a mental illness inside of me that I'm actually attempting to do it again and again and again. Okay. But I'm going to be a little bit more safeguard to it. But I can't even make myself not partner with black people because the endeavor is for everybody to level up. So I want to partner with white people because it's consistent, and Jewish people because it's consistent, and Asians because it's consistent, and I don't have to worry about somebody trying to stab me in the back. And I want to partner with black people because I use black people for my actors, for my crew members and stuff like that, and just getting enough done to get the project done. I used a lot of black people in the journey of it. So I want to somewhat have somebody in a room that represent where I came from. Okay? So I know that sounds crazy, but I'm just telling you, it's a toxic community. It's a toxic, I hate to use toxic, but I'm trying to articulate myself. When I pause, when you hear me talking and then I pause and I'm trying to collect my thoughts, it's not that I don't really have the thought in my head. It's that I'm trying to articulate it in a way that's more favorable for me as a podcaster, as in a well communicator. And sometimes the stuff I got in my head is so vulgar. It is so ridiculous that I gotta try to quickly come up with a way to get that out of my head and put it in a more articulating way that I can communicate it out my mouth, to the microphone and to you guys. Okay. So yeah, look, I know. I could do this all day. Really, I could.
Lashing out with a sentence.
Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Roberts, Alito.
Yeah.
They were willing to stop this. Make that argument.
Their argument would be, as a purely procedural matter, Trump was still in the process of appealing based on immunity, right? We got the immunity ruling 6 months ago. And if you look at a certain way procedurally, while you're appealing on immunity as a defendant, you're entitled to a complete stay, meaning no trial, no sentencing, no nothing. But the majority, and again, Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts joined with the liberals.
Brings me back. And I'll say this, we'll go back to this because we're going to the next clip now. That's only 20 seconds left. Bring me back to why I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing a hat because in order for me to wear this hat, Trump had to do, and I'm telling you, I bought this hat in 2016. 2016. He came to Novi, Michigan, and I live in Northville, Michigan, Detroit area. And I went out to see him and I bought it, on one of the vendors or something. So in order for me to wear this hat, Trump had to do a lot. Okay. One is he had to be consistent. What he said in 1970 had to actually measure up to 2025. Meaning that it had to be the truth. When time played out, it had to be the truth. So how he articulated himself, how his father articulated himself in 1970 with the cases in New York, how he articulated himself in the 1980s with the article, how he dealt with business and interaction with business and bankruptcy and all that stuff, and how he articulated himself about what he did and why he did it and all that stuff, that had to actually measure up to the microscope of analyzation in 2020, all the way up to 2025 in order for me to wear this hat. I'm sorry to say that Trump is the most highly representative of a great human journey. Then I'll say 99% of all human population. Maybe he's not as good as Martin Luther King. Maybe he's not as good as Malcolm X. Maybe he's not as good as Abraham Lincoln. Maybe he's not as good as Steve Jobs. Maybe he's not as good as certain people. But he's right there. In the big scheme of things, he's right there. And that data and the actual facts and evidence had to measure up in order for me to wear this hat. And so when you see people with this hat on, they innately feel it. They innately get the message. They innately know what time we're living in. Or they did the detailed analyzation of it, and you have to represent that you are truly in 2025 and you understand what's going on here. So now we gotta take all our analyzation, all our bookie stuff, all our computer tech, all our psychological analyzation, all our literal understanding, and we gotta connect it with AI, and we gotta move forward. So even people like me, for my editing, for the work I'm doing, I'm incorporating AI more and more and more into what I do. Why? Because I'll get left behind if I don't do it. So I'm learning it and I'm understanding it and I'm incorporating it. And that will make me an even more advanced person in the next two years. Even this year alone. Because that's where I'm going.
Said, but if there's no harm, there's no harm. And that's really what carried the day here.
So this news, and then right after that, it came down the effort to keep the special counsel's report away from public view. Also, Trump lost on that. They can still appeal it. We'll see what happens. And
we're going to see, I'll spoil that one. We're going to see those reports eventually.
Okay, well, we might see you back here tomorrow night, Ellie Honig. So thank you for that.
Okay, next clip.
President-elect Donald Trump is being sentenced today in his hush money case. The sentencing will take place in Manhattan court and comes 10 days before he's sworn in for his second term as president.
Meanwhile, Trump's request to have the sentencing stop was rejected by the Supreme Court yesterday. Joining us now is civil and criminal attorney Dante Mills. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning.
And Trump is likely to get an unconditional discharge. What does that mean exactly under New York state law?
So let's just talk about the scenario here because it's very interesting. Trump's team is coming after the presidential immunity granting that the Supreme Court talked about last year. But the issue is these instances occurred before Trump was president the first time, and now he's going to be sentenced before he's president the second time. So it seems as if
No. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Black
will take place in a minute.
You know what I'm saying? And this is when I'm not here to bash my own people. I love my skin. I love me. I don't have any insecurity. I'm not an Uncle Tom where I wish I was white or some crazy stuff like that. I love myself. I would never disrespect me to you. And I would never disrespect myself to an indie. I love me and I represent me. That's the best I could ever do, is represent me in the articulation of how I perceive what's going on with the news and social dynamics and the things that goes on in my life or your life and the different things that happen in the human endeavor and the human evolution of human beings and the Homo sapiens. I don't look in a mirror and hate myself. I go through some very dark times. You get what I'm saying? I'm going through dark times as I give you this podcast because I'm changing a lot of the way that I move and the way that you have to get outcome in my life. And it makes me very lonely because I'm breaking off from people. I'm not really having the support system. Well, it's not really a support system if I'm getting rid of it. I'm changing how I move, I think, I communicate, and who's around me. And I got to change it now because I have something that I'm doing that has great growth in it. And I can't have negative things going on around me while I'm making the moves I have. Why? Because I need to be executing always. And if it's not a situation to execute, don't even mess with it at all. But I'm not trying to go against my own people. This guy comes on and he's articulating himself in the most partisan way. Why? Because they say 87% of black men voted for Kamala. That would mean that 12 to 13% didn't. They voted for Trump. And we're supposed to be happy that 13% of black men, black American men, not migrant Africans or Jamaican descendants over here or some other type of people, but black Americans that were born and raised here. Okay? has voted for Trump and 87% didn't. One of the most, you will never have, and I'm telling you guys this, and this is my problem with everything about this country, about living, about society, about human beings, about the stuff that I hear, the music, the movies, everything. You will never have social media, even internet age. You will never have the most honest, blunt, and open presentation of the truth than what we had for the last 12 years, 12 to 15 years of Donald Trump fighting for president. You will never have it. I'm talking about relationships, male, female, business, everything about the civilization, the evolution, everything. Possibilities, probabilities, anything. You would never have the most open and blunt and like well communicated presentation of life as we had it in the last 12 to 15 years of Donald Trump running for president, because he opened everything: health, physicality, business, medical, entrepreneurship, the powers that be, our government, our intelligence, our Pentagon, our military. All he opened everybody's eyes to talk and have an open conversation about what you already know, and what you know is pretty much everything. Anything else, if anything that you're saying you don't know, you're trying not to communicate about what's true, because you don't want to get demonetized. You don't want to get Me Too'd. Some crazy shit, okay? So when I listen to intelligent, well-educated, well-earning Black Americans say something they know is propaganda, it's emotional. That's the only thing to it. And if you allow your emotions to make you ignorant in historical evidence, meaning that the stuff that this guy's saying in this clip, you're on TV, you're getting recorded. Now you're in my podcast, and I'm actually articulating what you're saying and how false you're communicating. Talking about these certain situations happened before he became president and after he was president, so the immunity doesn't apply. Why would you say that, dude? Did you slow down your hatred and make sure that what you're saying is true? His lawyer may went into an NDA situation that the evidence showed that only his lawyer did. His lawyer may say that he knew about it, but so what if he did? It's an NDA. The indictment is not about him doing an NDA with a porn star in the midst of him running for president, so the American people, fooling the American people so they won't know that he had sex with the porn star. That ain't what the indictment is, because that's a federal crime. And the people that investigate that as a federal crime said that it was not a federal crime. So that's why they didn't bring an indictment to him. But a state deciding to do federal crime is just ridiculous in itself and illegal. So that's crazy. So what they did was they put an indictment on the reason why he did the federal crime. But they had no evidence to show that, because the invoice that the lawyer sent to the Trump organization, it was in increments of $35,000, with his retainer for a whole year is $420,000, and that's all the money that they showed that he ever received from Trump in this period. And guess what? He did that in 2017 while he was already president, after him being inaugurated. Okay? So for you to say that, the hush money was before, no. The act of his actual lawyer with the NDA and the porn star was before his inauguration. But the invoice And the actual cutting of the checks was in 2017 afterwards. And this is in the logging of legal expense, that's afterwards. That's why he was president. And then you actually brought his actual administration in on the stand to talk about conversations they had with him as president, which he has immunity, and that's a confidential president, a confidential that you're not even supposed to be asking his staff about conversations that he had with his staff. So that you put them on the stand and you ask them questions, pieces of the case is illegal because he got immunity to it. It's ruled by the Supreme Court effectively. So everything that they actually prosecuted and they indicted him, and the dumbass grand jury and the dumbass prosecutors and the dumbass jury actually found him guilty on, and that they even conversating about, is him in communications and in actions that Trump organization and Trump and took in the midst of him being president. Why? Because you didn't only talk about Trump organization, talk about Cohen, talk about Trump prior to becoming president. You actually brought people part of his presidency into the courtroom and put them on stand, ask them questions about him as president, conversations he had as president, guesses that he had in the Oval Office as president. This is ridiculous, y'all. So you got this black man saying, "Oh, this happened, dude." That's an emotional. And now I'm articulating why your hack and all that education and all that money you get paid. It's like, it's just, I know. I'm gonna stop.
Manhattan court comes 10 days before he's sworn in for his second term as president.
Meanwhile, Trump's request to have the sentencing stop was rejected by the Supreme Court yesterday. Joining us now is civil and criminal attorney Dante Mills. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning.
And Trump is likely to get an unconditional discharge. What does that mean exactly under New York state law?
He didn't even say what the unconditional discharge is. I'll tell you guys ahead of time. Okay, and this I'm gonna put it in layman terms, and I won't go on long. If any citizen, any person in this country ever gets a ruling by the judge of unconditional discharge, if you ever see a ruling like that by a judge, that means the prosecutor was an idiot and they were dumb. Something wrong with them, and they should have never brought this indictment on and never prosecuted the person on the behalf of the dumb grand jury that actually gave the indictment approval to the prosecutor to indict this person on this situation. So you got a dumb grand jury. This is what an unconditional discharge means. It means all the evidence, all the ruling, all the stuff that goes on between the case being actually the jury handing in the jury, all the way to me ruling the sentencing, all the information that is gathered has found out that this charge in the indictment and this court proceeding was ignorant on the behalf of the grand jury and how they came to their conclusion to give an indictment. It was foolish for the prosecutor to bring it to the grand jury. It's foolish for the detectives to bring it to the grand jury or anything like that. And then for the prosecutor to prosecute it in the court to actually give it to the judge, to give it to the jury to make a ruling. And then the ruling that the jury came back with, that was dumb and foolish, that they should not even have ruled this what they call it, this verdict, because they're stupid if they came up to this verdict. All the evidence, everything about this case, the everything that is known in the process by the judge in the midst of the jury's actual verdict, all the way up to the judge ruling the sentence, has been found out to be that the grand jury's dumb, the prosecutor's dumb, and the juries are dumb. Okay, and everything that you guys talked about and what you ruled on and what the verdict was idiotic. It's so ridiculous. This is such an unconstitutional situation. This is so ignorant, and the ruling is such a insignificant ruling and insignificant verdict that I must overrule this whole case and say it is blank. It is null and void. The verdict is null and void. The ruling is null and void. The prosecution is null and void. The grand jury indictment is null and void. Unconstitutional discharge means that I erase any outcome of this whole case because I don't want you to pay nothing. You ain't gonna pay. You ain't even gonna get no probation. You ain't gonna serve no time. There's no penalty at all. It's almost as I have to rule that they had no right to even prosecute this. I even have to rule that I can't dirty my name and my credibility with giving you a time or probation or fine. It's so ridiculous that I can't even do that. That's, even if that wasn't his intention, that's what it means. It has nothing. It's dumb. So anybody in this world, if you ever, it's very, very, very rare that you will see an unconditional discharge. That means the case shouldn't even been brought.
So let's just talk about the scenario here because it's very interesting. Trump's team is coming after the presidential immunity granting that the Supreme Court talked about last year. But the issue is these instances occurred before Trump was president the first time, and now he's going to be sentenced before he's president the second time. So it seems as if he's fitting into these windows where presidential immunity does not apply, and I
just explained to you why it does apply. Because everything about this case, they put in his presidency in order to indict and in order to find him guilty. They put evidence and witnesses and times of actions as president into this prosecution. Because they just wanted it as rhetoric, it was actually put in as evidence.
what the Supreme Court said. They also said it's not going to be unduly burdensome on the president-elect's responsibilities. So Judge Marchand can move forward with the sentencing, especially in light of the fact that Judge Marchand said it's going to be more likely an unconditional discharge, which means there's not going to be any penalty at all. It's not like incoming President Trump is going to have to serve time in jail. He's not going to have to be on probation or anything that will restrict his duties as president. So they're allowing the sentencing to move forward today, knowing that it will be over. There will be no penalty.
See, they say, oh, there'll be no penalties, no jail time, there's no fines. You got to understand, it's not about that. And it's about that technically, but it's in the understanding psychologically, they don't give this unconditional discharge to people that are guilty, but they don't want to just sentence them. They just don't want to sentence them. They give it to people that everything shows this is a wrongful prosecution. It's not supposed to be had. So the verdict can't be taken away because he's got it, because the sentencing is an unconditional discharge. I don't know why that holds up as a felony now. I really don't. It's a purgatory situation with our judicial system, which I've been talking about this during this whole situation. It's just crazy. But it's literally like it was a bad prosecution. But the verdict, the court ruled, the jury ruled the verdict, so you gotta uphold and don't disrespect a jury's ruling. So this is a way that a court has to somewhat give validity to the jury's ruling, but say I have the choice to totally ignore why they gave a ruling like that and what they ruled and the prosecution of it, and I have to right this right for somebody to come in and make sure that this person's constitutional rights have been respected. And I'm coming in to say this is an unconditional discharge, meaning that this case should have been never brought. A jury ruled his verdict. I should have did it before the actual jury ruled the verdict, because if I'm ruling the unconditional discharge, that means that I should have stopped it before the jury, and I should have canceled out this whole prosecution. But I didn't do that because I hate Trump, and I wanted to make sure that he get prosecuted. I mean, I wanted to make sure that he was found guilty. That way we can call him a felon. But truthfully, the unconditional discharge means that I should have said, hey, jury, we don't need you to rule on this because I'm going to throw this whole case out. He should have did that. But he didn't do it because he hates Trump. But he's trying to act like that's not legally, like he's a lawyer. He could actually give more articulation to it than I can. It's ridiculous. This is bias.
And then it won't affect Trump when he's president of the United States.
He says he still wants to appeal, of course. But what are some of the restrictions or consequences that he could face after today, now being a convicted felon?
Well, he had the typical or usual restrictions that we have in the United States. In some states, you're not allowed to vote. Funny enough, there's a lot of jobs that you can't get when you're a felon. But otherwise, there's not going to be any penalties that he's going to face. There is no restriction on being president.
Why did they stop him from voting? I think he went to the ballot box and he voted because he wasn't sentenced. So he wasn't officially a felon. Oh, boy, I tell you.
You're a convicted felon. The only requirements are you're over 35 and you're a citizen of the United States. So it's not going to impact his ability to lead the nation.
See, Trump is spending, when it's all said and done, in order to beat the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, U.S. District Attorneys, the Attorney General, law enforcement. I already said the FBI, didn't I? The Democrats, the Republicans, Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Viacom. In order to truly beat the most powerful people, even billionaires in this country, that may throw 30 billion. I mean, that may throw 30 million, 2, 3 million, 15 millions at a campaign and advertising and all that stuff, dollars and stuff. So in order to beat the power of America for your own outcome that you want and to make sure that you survive through it all, it'll cost you $1 billion. And if Trump wasn't liquid about $1 billion, this would have destroyed him. He wouldn't have had those lawyers always fighting for him, always communicating when he can't communicate for himself. When he can't be at all places at one time, can't be on the campaign trail in the court to articulate himself, the laws and all that other stuff that you got to purchase lawyers to do that, because you can't do everything. You can only do so much. So if he didn't have enough money to have lawyers going across every single state, every single court, all the way up to the Supreme Court, fighting all those people, he would have been done. So if you want me to tell you how much it costs for you to really be a free American citizen in America, for you to really be able to use the Constitution as a living document for you, not a living document, as a document to represent you, to have your constitutional rights, it'll cost you $1 billion to have your constitutional rights, to be a free American citizen. That's what we found out in the last 12 to 15 years.
And you assume he's not going to be looking for any other types of jobs where being a felon is going to impact him. So I don't think this is going to impact him at all. He's not going to have any direct penalty, and it's not going to impact his future because Judge Merchan said it's going to be an unconditional discharge. So seemingly, Trump is going to be convicted of these felonies without any type of punishment associated with it, and without anyone saying, here's the penalty for what it was decided by this jury that you did.
I'm done with them. So let's go to the next one.
All right, this is a Fox News alert. Moments ago, the Supreme Court denied Trump's application to halt a sentencing in that New York hush money case, which now will happen, the sentencing tomorrow. For reaction to this, Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law prof, and Charlie Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor, both Fox News contributors. Professor Turley, let's start with you. Look, the court doesn't like to intervene and what may be considered. But Amy,
I want you guys to know that I'm going to cut off these people because I don't care about their commentary. I just want data and information. Data, information. That's all I want. Data, information. I'll do the commentary. Okay? Maybe if it's like Jonathan Turley, I like him. He's a good lawyer. So maybe sometimes I'll let him kind of preface it so you guys can see the similarities of what I'm saying and the high Ivy League person is saying. But I really don't like commentary.
matters. Your take on this, then I'll tell you what I think the court should have done.
Well, this is what some of us predicted when the appeals just began. Merchan really played this perfectly, and I say that not as a compliment. That he knew that he was giving President-elect Trump very little runway by which to take an appeal off. He also knew that appellate courts generally prefer for sentences to be finalized, to review the case as a whole. And he played those two cards to guarantee that he'll be able to sentence President Trump tomorrow. And when that occurs, in many ways, he's going to create the ultimate mandate for President Trump. He will have established with finality the effect of lawfare on our political system. So President Trump will go in, as many on the left want him to go in, as.
And just in case, even in my movie, I always you hear people say certain things, investigations and stuff like that, and people don't show a presentation of what is that when they reporting stuff. But in my movie, is a big one that going on in our country for the last 5 years or so, that I actually let people understand a little bit more what grooming is and stuff like that. So in this case, when you hear people say lawfare is meaning that you use the statutes against a person. You use the manipulation of a judge, of manipulation of prosecutors to actually manipulate the laws and how to articulate the laws in trying to prosecute a person and put a person in jail in order to destroy them, take their power away. In this case, to stop a guy from becoming president, to damage him so much that the public will be how can I say, manipulated to not vote for him. Okay? That's lawfare.
A convicted felon. But for many people in this country, he will also go in as someone who was the victim of lawfare. This was the most outrageous of the cases. It was built on not a novel, but an unprecedented theory, one that even the Democratic senator from New Jersey recently called BS. Said that it was completely invalid. And that's the mandate that he will give this president going into office.
Well, Professor, we'll get to Charlie in just a second. When you look at this, though, one of the
Yeah. Let me let Charlie speak. See if he spoke.
He recently called BS. Said that it was completely invalid. And that's the mandate that he will give this president going into
his work as president. But 4 justices said it disagreed with nonsense.
That's an elect
to the appellate.
Not anywhere in the list,
according to Professor Turley.
Most important point, and certainly the point that I think every American, whether you voted for Donald Trump or not, if you're part of that 60% of Americans who are express to pollsters that they're hopeful that we can sort of move in a positive direction, they're like, wait a minute, we got all these problems. This is not anywhere in the list of problems that I have. And then, of course, in this particular case, as Professor Turley just pointed out, the real damage here was letting the case go forward in the first place. That's when the real damage occurred here. And the gagging of somebody who's actually running for president, it runs counter to everything that we believe in terms of free speech and running robust campaigns in this country. And, of course, Donald Trump won, and he beat all of it. And this is just a reminder, I think, for a lot of people of what the left and what these crazy prosecutors did and tried to do to try to thwart the will of the American people. And the American people looked at it and said, yeah, we don't care. We're not going to be confused about this. We're going to stick with the issues that we care about. And the issues in this case are not one of them.
Yeah, so that's enough for that. Like I said, I don't really want to listen to people's commentary, which that's okay. I like Jonathan Turley. I like Mr. Hurt too. But I just don't.
Out of this, in just a few hours, President Trump will appear virtually to be sentenced in the New York versus Trump case after the Supreme Court blocked his bid to postpone the sentencing.
Brooke Singman here with the details. Brooke.
Yeah, good morning, guys. That's right. So this morning, sentencing is scheduled for 9:30 Eastern time for those 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. But Judge Juan Merchan has indicated he will not give Trump jail time, fines, or probation. The incoming president tried to stop this sentencing from moving forward, but the Supreme Court denied that request.
I thought it was a fair decision, actually. So I'll do my little thing tomorrow. They can have fun with their political opponent. As you know, they acknowledge what the judge said about no penalty, and there's no penalty. But we're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case. He's a highly conflicted judge.
Now, separately, in another case, a source close to Trump's legal team tells me that a new judge was assigned to the president-elect's civil fraud case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, seemingly replacing Judge Arthur Engoron.
Yeah, that's that judge that I told you about with the $450 million. That's him right there, a whacked out guy. And for some reason, they took him off the case and put another judge on it. And then I guess they're so political that they put him back onto the case. It's weird, okay?
Case received an email announcing that decision. They got another message saying Engoron was actually reassigned to the case. Trump has also appealed the $454 million judgment there. That appeal is pending before the New York Appeals Court. Guys.
Raises a lot of questions, Brooke.
Okay, so that's all we want to listen to. We're going to some people commentate. But obviously, just kind of reiterating what's going to be going on in the proceeding. So let's go to the nitty gritty of it.
And we have just heard that apparently Trump has finished speaking and that Merchan, Judge Merchan, is starting the sentencing right now.
And in wrapping up, Trump said that this is a great embarrassment to the state of New York. And then Jonathan pointed out this idea that Michael Colangelo left his position as a deputy or assistant attorney general at the department.
Okay, Michael Colangelo is he's actually he's pretty much in the Department of Justice is pretty much the law enforcement that's over everybody. The district attorneys in different states and the U.S. attorneys in different states and stuff. And they're over the FBI. They're over the inspector generals and stuff like that. The people that's supposed to investigate the investigators and all that stuff. And this guy was, you got the U.S. attorney, that the number one attorney general, the person that's ahead of all the lawyers in the country, the second in command under him, the one that pretty much does the work. This attorney general delegates everything, administration, to this second in command and third in command. That guy left the job, the most powerful, most money, and everything that a lawyer could possibly make. He left it and he went to New York to apply to be on the New York Attorney General's staff. He took a 60% pay cut because it paid him 60% less than what he was getting paid under the Department of Justice. He took a 60% pay cut, and he's the one, because the Attorney General in New York decided that they was not going to bring no charges against Trump for Stormy Daniels or anything else because it was stupid. Just like the federal government decided they were not going to bring the election violations. They were not going to bring the charges against him. But the actual guy left the Attorney General, went to actual New York, and he restarted up the case against Trump. And then they brought the indictment on him. And that's how I got to how it is today. and he's in the courtroom, and he's actually did closing statements and all that shit. So pretty much Joe Biden's, but that person gets put into staff by Joe Biden. That he don't get a job unless Joe Biden gives it to him. So Joe Biden put that guy into office, and he pretty much working for Joe Biden, quit the job and went to New York to make sure that they found a way to prosecute Trump. That's Colangelo, and Trump saying this guy in the courtroom, he's working for Biden, and he's a political junk, he's a political hack that's bringing this charge against me, and this is ridiculous. That's what he's talking about. So that's so you can know who Colangelo is, okay?
Up about many of these issues. He's raised some of these themes before, but he was also under a gag order.
State prosecutor for this case. I mean, that was something that
I want to rewind that.
New York, and then Jonathan pointed out this idea that Michael Colangelo left his position as a deputy or assistant attorney general at the Department of Justice to take on the mantle of a humble state prosecutor for this case. I mean, that was something that a lot of people said, well, that draws a direct connection between what's going on in New York City and what's going on at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. What do you think?
Well, it is interesting that in these final remarks, Trump is opening up about many of these issues. He's raised some of these themes before, but he was also under a gag order, something that many of us felt was excessive. You had this acting New York justice in Manhattan effectively controlling the leading candidate for the presidency on a subject that was important to many voters. Many voters saw what Mershon did in his courtroom as raw lawfare and saw these types of cross-pollination that you just raised, John, as evidence of that. And I think that, in my view, that's the verdict that is going to be unassailable here. I don't think this case is likely to be upheld. I hope it will not be. But I think that the verdict on the New York court system is going to really stand the test of time. This was where the New York court system failed in a spectacular fashion, allowed people like Bragg, Attorney General James, and others to weaponize their system. It's going to take years for New York to regain a sense of legitimacy in the eyes of many citizens, including many business people who look at this and say, but for the grace of God go I. But the one thing that I think that Trump can take some solace in is that he can now appeal this case in whole. And
he will. So that's all we need to do is listen to that. Let's go to the I think these are some recordings or at least some sound from them in the court proceedings. So let's go to that.
Would your client like to be heard?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This has been a very terrible experience. I think it's been a tremendous setback for New York and the New York court system. This is a case that Alvin Bragg did not want to bring. He thought it was, from what I read and from what I hear, inappropriately handled before he got there. A gentleman from a law firm came in and acted as a district attorney, and that gentleman, from what I heard, was a criminal or almost criminal in what he did. It was very inappropriate. It was somebody involved with my political opponent. Part of the records that we're talking about, they're saying, I just noticed where he said I was falsifying business records. Well, the falsification of business records, as they said, was calling a legal expense in the books where everybody could see them, a legal expense. In other words, that legal fees or legal expense were put down as legal expense by accountants. They weren't put down by me. They were put down by accountants. I didn't call them construction, concrete work. I didn't call them electrical work. I didn't call them anything. They called a legal fee or a legal expense. And for this, I got indicted. It's incredible, actually. Now, if you look, my attorney alluded to it, the top legal scholars and legal pundits in this country, the ones that are quoted all the time on television, that are making their views felt, and highly respected people, have said, everyone, virtually everyone that I know of, I haven't seen any to the contrary, not one. And none of these people are not exactly friends of mine, to put it mildly. But they all said this is a case that should have never been brought. It's an injustice of justice. Very respected Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, Judge David Rifkin, a wonderful man who just passed away, by the way, Greg Jarrett, Ellie Honig from CNN, of all places. CNN said that, Paul Ingratian, Alan Dershowitz. They all said this is not a case that should be brought. It's not, think about it, legal expenses are down as legal expenses, and I get indicted for business records. Everybody should be so accurate. It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work. And the people of our country got to see this firsthand because they watched the case in your courtroom. They got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won and got the largest number of votes by far of any Republican candidate in history, and won, as you know, all 7 swing states, won conclusively all 7 swing states, and won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. And they've been watching your trial, so they understood it. I wasn't allowed to use the lawyer-client privilege or the reliance on counsel. I had a lawyer that made this deal, and he admitted that. And he was also a totally discredited person. We weren't allowed to use the information from the Southern District that totally discredited him. It wasn't allowed to be put in. McCarthy.
And he's talking about that his lawyer, he the one who made the deal with her. So he even admits it still to this day that I ain't want her to get paid off nothing. But at the same time, it was another investigation in a district court that actually found out how much he was lying, and he was criminalized. He was doing criminal stuff, and it had nothing to do with Trump and all that stuff. And they had the evidence during that case to use to corroborate that Trump had nothing to do with this situation. And this guy, you know, him getting in the other district, that's the one where they were prosecuting him for the actual tax evasion and stuff. They had information in his investigation and the actual interviews and testimony from him and everybody to show that he, like, in his own words, Trump had nothing to do with this, and the guy had that he did this on his own and stuff. So they would, but the judge wouldn't let them put that into the evidence. So that's what he's talking about.
To the system. I was under a gag order. I'm the first president in history that was under a gag order where I couldn't talk about aspects of the case that are very important. I guess I'm still under, so probably I won't do it now. I assume I'm still under a gag order. But the fact is that I'm totally innocent. I did nothing wrong. They talk about business records, and the business records were extremely accurately counted. I had nothing to do with them. That was done by an accountant or bookkeeper who I think gave very credible testimony and was corroborated by everybody that was asked. And with all that's happening in our country today, with a city that's burning to the ground, one of our largest, most important cities burning to the ground, with wars that are uncontrollably going on, with all of the problems of inflation and attacks on countries and all of the horrible things that are going on, I got indicted over calling a legal expense a legal expense. It was called a legal expense. I just want to say I think it's an embarrassment to New York, and New York has a lot of problems, but this is a great embarrassment. I believe that this and other cases that were brought, as you know, the DOJ is very much involved in this case. It's because that's the political opponent they're talking about. The DOJ is very involved. You have a gentleman sitting right there from the DOJ who was from the DOJ's office. He was also involved with the New York State Attorney General's case. And he went from there to here. He went around and did what he had to do. He got them to move on me. But in the meantime, I won the election in a massive landslide. And the people of this country understand what's gone on. This has been a weaponization of government. They call it lawfare. Never happened to any extent like this, but never happened in our country before. And I'd just like to exclaim that I was treated very, very unfairly. And I thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the audio from Trump with the stupid judge and stuff. But man, and I'm glad I let that play because he articulated himself well in the big scope of the stuff and letting you guys know, because you guys are not going to read. Like for me, I followed the case. I got all the documents. I got all the transcripts from all the proceedings and everything that was going on in the courtroom, from the prosecutor, the defendant. I got the evidence, or what they put into the evidence and everything, the recordings, everything, and the ruling by the jury and all that stuff. I got all that stuff. So I'm not just telling you this out of nowhere. I got the data because I'm a data nut and I don't like to talk. I'm really telling y'all, I live individual perspective, meaning that your truth is the objective truth, meaning the communication that I'm telling you is the truth. And I vet it. I don't listen to my mama. I don't listen to my daddy. I don't listen to my siblings. I don't listen to my community. I don't listen to my favorite movie star, my favorite musician, the favorite motivational speakers, or the most intellectual person in the world. They don't have any validity until I vet it. I even vet them. I vet everyone. And then if I know that it's the truth and it's actually what it is, I communicate it. I communicate it to you. And so anything that's coming out of my mouth is just what it is, and it will hold up to scrutiny. Okay? So that's what that situation is, and that's what individual perspective is, when your truth is the objective truth. So when you're listening to this podcast, it's all about making sure that when you communicate, when you talk about politics or social dynamics or whatever, that if you're listening to my podcast and you're getting some of the data, and when you're using the talking points or something like that, or you're communicating exterior wise to some person you heard on social media or like YouTube or something like that, whatever you're saying is the truth, and it will go. And if you go look it up and you vet it, you'll find out that I was telling the truth all along.
Let's get to Carrie Urban. She was our Fox person right there in the courtroom. She saw everything. Carrie, your thoughts as we wrap up the sentencing portion, but we await to hear what you heard in the courtroom.
Yes, we heard from the lead prosecutor, Joshua Steinglass. We heard from Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's attorney, who is set to become the #2 official at the Department of Justice in just about a week from now. We heard from Donald Trump himself, and then, of course, we heard from Judge Juan Merchan. Donald Trump, I thought, gave a pretty effective statement where he said, quite simply, I was indicted because my accountant labeled legal expenses, and that's why I'm here. He said this person could have labeled them concrete or electrical or anything like that. They didn't. They were legal expenses because they were payments to a lawyer. They were logged as such, and now I've been indicted. He also talked about Michael Cohen. He said how he was a disbarred attorney, but yet he was allowed to speak as if he was George Washington. He pointed out from the screen that he was speaking from, he saw into the courtroom and he could see Matthew Colangelo, who used to be a top senior official at the Biden Department of Justice, who left that spot, took a pretty big career downgrade to go join Alvin Bragg and prosecute Donald Trump. He pointed him out and said, this is evidence that the Department of Justice was involved. That was his perspective. And then he said, and I thought this was a very effective line, he said, speaking to Judge Merchan, he said, people watched the trial in your courtroom and the people voted decisively. I won all 7 swing states. And, as he was saying that, I was thinking about, as I walked into the courtroom, that the only protesters, per se, who were here were Trump supporters. And even as I'm standing here right now, I'm looking into a square and I'm looking at people holding Trump flags. I'm looking at a person who has a sign that says, enough is enough. We voted. We don't want this lawfare anymore. And I will note on the audio playback that we're about to get from the court, and so everyone will be able to hear for themselves, it is noteworthy that during the trial, there was no audio, there were no cameras, but for this particular sentencing, Judge Merchan agreed to have audio. I can't help but think it's because he wants the world to hear his voice sentence Donald Trump, because we were not able to have that before. But this is how these things go.
So, Carrie, let me ask you this question. So you were there as Donald Trump made his statement to the court. He's been under a gag order for these many months, which he continues to say does not allow him to say the things that he wants to say.
He doesn't have to be on the gag order no more. He could kill that. He really could.
In terms of what just happened,
he's been hanging on.
They just ruled. He got a sentencing verdict. He don't have to be on that gag order no more. So he can stop that and talk about it if he wants. You know what I'm saying? So that's just ridiculous. I don't know what that is. I really don't. Too Greek for me. Too Greek for me.
not able to have that before, but this is how these things go.
So, Carrie, let me ask you this question. So you were there as Donald Trump made his statement to the court. He's been under a gag order for these many months, which he continues to say does not allow him to say the things that he wants to say, but he appeared to say a few of the things that he's been hanging on to in the court. How did his statement to the court strike you?
You know, it was pretty tempered. He was making actually a very effective, reasonable legal argument the entire time. He did mention the gag order, and he offhandedly said, "I'm probably still under it right now." Joshua Steinglass, the prosecutor for the DA's office, his tone was different than Donald Trump's. He was dramatic. He was a bit over the top. He included what I thought were a lot of gratuitous details, very, very critical of Donald Trump, very critical of his role in this country and how he handled himself. I thought it was a bit disconnected from reality in terms of what just happened.
Meaning that the prosecutors was very political, you know what I'm saying? But they brought this stupid case on, so I can see that. I can see that they would be hacks. Okay? Really. It's ridiculous. Okay?
A few weeks ago, 2 months ago with the election, and thought it was a bit unnecessary. Now, Judge Merchan, typically a soft-spoken person, and he continued to be so today. He talked about how much he thought through this decision. He defended his rejection of the immunity argument, also defended the unconditional discharge, and at the end, he wished Donald Trump Godspeed as he takes his second term.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno.
Yeah, sorry about that. I hate when they do that. Okay, we're almost done, y'all. We're almost done. I'm just trying to give you guys data. Data. You know, make sure everything people are talking about. I think that's pretty the bulk of it. You get what I'm saying? I know we in 3 hours. I know we're almost done. I might play one. Where we at? It's ridiculous. Because all of this is very ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? But I always want to kind of like give you guys multiple perspectives on this stuff. Okay. So let me see if I like this clip. Okay, we're gonna go to this one. This is Martha McCall. Okay, let's go to this one.
A historic day here. President-elect Trump, the first former commander-in-chief sentenced for a felony conviction. The judge gave him a, quote, unconditional discharge. No jail time, no fines, no probation. The president-elect appearing remotely on screen with his attorney, Todd Blanche. He was convicted of falsifying business records over payments connected to Stormy Daniels that were logged as legal expenses, which he explained today, yes, and that's why we called them legal expenses, because non-disclosure agreements are not illegal. They're agreements entered into by two parties. So he said he did nothing wrong. Here's a little bit of what the president-elect said.
It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work. And the people of our country got to see this firsthand because they watched the case in your courtroom. They got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won.
So prosecutors say there was overwhelming evidence to support the verdict. Watch this.
The jury necessarily found unanimously that the defendant falsified 34 separate entries in his business records with the intent to defraud, which included an intent to commit or conceal a conspiracy to promote his own election by unlawful means.
And I want you guys to understand that's important for you to hear how that prosecutor articulate that stuff. He didn't put none of that in the prosecution indictment. None of that was in the indictment. The conspiracy for like to tamper with the election for him to win and all that stuff was not in the indictment. Why? Because those are federal crimes. And if the election federal department, if they didn't feel that it was a crime or the perception of it being done was a crime, then a state can't bring it. So even if that's a theory of why the state thinks that these payments or the $420,000 increments of $35,000 got paid to the lawyer, even if that's what they think it is, they got to have factual evidence of that, and they didn't. So even to the prosecutor, even into even the sentencing, they gave speculation and theory and idealism of what they think the payments of the $35,000 across 12 months, $420,000 given to the lawyer, and what the lawyer said when he got prosecuted as a taxi crime because he wasn't paying his taxes and stuff like that, and that he decided to try to find a way to help the prosecutors get something on Trump. Even if that's all what they feel, they don't have no factual evidence to it, and the evidence don't show it. And for them to actually articulate that themselves like that, knowing that there's no evidence to show your theory, that's how corrupt our judicial system is. Our judicial system is corrupt not because if judges are corrupt. Judges allow corrupt lawyers, prosecutors to actually do what they do to the American citizens, and that makes our system corrupt. Did judges allow the grand juries to indict and actually bring an indictment on lack of evidence like they do, and all under speculation and procedures and the legal procedures that's inside of a grand jury with no defendant there, no defendant lawyer there? It's ridiculous. So when he articulates himself like that, this should let you know how corrupt they are.
Unanimously that the defendant falsified 34 separate entries in his business records with the intent to defraud, which included an intent to commit or conceal a conspiracy to promote his own election by unlawful means.
Judge Merchan did not require the prosecutors to say what the underlying conspiracy or crime was that they were accusing President Trump of committing. So that really lifted a huge burden off of the prosecution in terms of what they had to prove in the courtroom. With me now, Carrie Urban, Fox News legal editor and former counselor to Attorney General Bill Barr.
I'll let them speak for a little bit, but I'm not going to let them speak a lot because you guys don't care about that. I'm articulating everything. All you're going to do is hear redundant conversations from the different panels and stuff, because these people, they got nothing, no way of communicating that's valuable. There's such a lack of confrontation to the crazy stuff that's going on that's why they suck.
Who was at the courthouse today. Carrie was, not Bill Barr. Jason Chaffetz, former House Oversight Committee chairman and Fox News contributor, and Robert Wolf, former economic advisor to President Obama, founder and CEO of 32 Advisors and a Fox News contributor. Carrie, you were down there today. What's your biggest takeaway, and what do you think happens in terms of appeal here? Obviously, President-elect Trump would love to expunge his record of this.
Well, I think Donald Trump has a pretty good chance on appeal, given the amount of reversible error that just permeated this case. And I also, what I took away today was Donald Trump continues to be his best communicator. He is such an effective speaker. And you mentioned this in your opening, Martha, but he said it very simply. My accountant characterized legal expenses, payments to my lawyers, as legal expenses, and that's why I'm indicted. And he's not wrong. And, he talked about Matthew Colangelo, who was a top official at the Department of Justice. You know, he had a prime spot there, a spot that everybody wants because it typically leads to like very big jobs that pay a lot of money. He left that to join up with Alvin Bragg to go after Donald Trump there. One thing that also struck me, though, was Judge Juan Merchan talked about how Donald Trump was not treated any differently than any other criminal in the building, which, you know, there's a respect issue there that I took a little offense with. But when he said that, I thought, how can you possibly say that with a straight face? Not treated any differently? Alvin Bragg ran on getting Donald Trump. Alvin Bragg manipulated the statute of limitations to revive the case. Alvin Bragg converted misdemeanors into felonies in a way that has never been done in the state of New York. And to your point earlier, Judge Merchan, you allowed the jury to convict this person, and we still don't know what the underlying crimes are. He doesn't either. So, no, I do not think that is like everybody else, as much as you would like to say so.
Yeah. Robert, you know, he talked about the fact that the president-elect believed that he, you know, this helped him in the end because it was really a very bright spotlight on a situation that I think a lot of people looked at and said it didn't smell right. It felt unfair.
I mean, I was never a supporter of this case. I thought the Stormy Daniels case, so the idea that people were talking prison was ridiculous. I'm surprised that New York City went through with it. And yeah, it definitely helped him because I think he, as Kerry said, he's his own best communicator, you know, and we wake up to him, we go to sleep to him, and he's rent-free in our head. And, you know, I would just be, as a staunch Democrat, I would just tell my fellow Democrats and some of the other cable shows, the idea that they're just highlighting the convicted felon part, I think is ridiculous. I think we should make sure we respect the office of the presidency and call him who he is.
And we know that message failed with voters because they even dropped using it. You know, I thought we were going to hear that he was a convicted felon right up until Election Day, but it became quite clear that they were like, okay, ixnay on that message is not working for anybody. I talked to a former assistant DA in Manhattan. He said the only time we ever used an unconditional discharge was a case that really should have been dismissed or never brought in the first place. It's a fig leaf to cover up what we knew shouldn't have happened in the first place.
So see, that's what I was telling you guys. Even that it's just like it should have never been. If a person gets an unconditional discharge, it means it was a corrupt situation that happened to even indict the person. It should have never been done. Okay, let's go to the next clip. I'm trying to knock these out real quick, y'all. I'm trying to get us out in 10 more minutes. Okay, I apologize for going for 3 hours and 30 minutes, but I would love for you guys to understand the things that we talked about in this episode was very hardcore, and it is very fruitful in the psychosis of human interaction and the different courses of the stuff that we go through and we're interacting with each other on and stuff. And I hope that I articulated it for long-term purposes. So when you listen to this podcast while you're building a house, while you're designing, developing, architecting the app or whatever you're doing, building a website or whatever you guys doing AI work, or you building a house, or you're constructing on a road or something, you're wearing headphones and you listen to podcasts and stuff like that. I hope that you find usefulness to what I'm saying, because that's what I'm doing it for. The entertainment factor is that I'm bloviating about something that's going on in the news and the different stuff, but the psychosis also is something for you to kind of not teach yourself. You probably already know this stuff, and you probably are all realized people. I'm not teaching you something. I'm just making you have a more assured to your mindset, and that this mindset and the things that are going on around you and the way that I'm articulating makes sense, or you can even validate how I'm communicating to anybody that is listening to the podcast or something like that. So that's the only reason why I kind of do these. I'm not here to, like, you know, look at me. It's just to fight the narrative that's coming from multi-billion-dollar companies, and we have enough people out here articulating. I'm fighting to get my podcast seen by you guys and on to push through the algorithm, but I think I'm gonna have to do hundreds of hours before you guys see any of this stuff. I have no idea.
United States. He's UC Berkeley law professor. John Yoo, you worked at the Justice Department. I was chief of staff of the Justice Department. Isn't it interesting to you that the federal Justice Department didn't intervene in this case and claim, wait a minute, these guys, these local guys, have no authority whatsoever, especially given the fact that the Southern District of New York looked at this case and took a pass. Isn't it also interesting to you that most of the arguments we're hearing have absolutely nothing to do with jurisdiction? They get caught in the weeds about, interlocutory appeals and the New York system. Well, that's all very, very interesting. But it seems to me a straightforward jurisdictional supremacy clause matter here should have sufficed. What do you think?
Mark, I'm sure America wishes you were back as chief of staff at the Justice Department, because this would never have happened. I think a lot of the commentary about President Trump's sentencing, as you suggested, will be about the tactics of lawfare. Unfortunately, they're missing, I think, the bigger constitutional picture which you laid out. And this is a bigger long-term threat to our constitutional system of government that goes beyond Donald Trump, although he is the symbol of it. One, you have a state here attacking someone who is the president-elect. A state attacking, as you said, the supremacy clause is supposed to stop states from interfering with the valid operations of the federal government. It's almost as if Lincoln, after he was elected, trying to get to Washington, D.C., and Maryland decided to arrest him on his way to the Capitol. That, of course, would never be permitted. So one, you've got a state trying to interfere with the federal operation of the presidency. Second, you've got a state trying to take over the federal government's authority to enforce the election laws. As you said, the Southern District of New York Justice Department, the federal election.
Yeah. Now, what he's talking about is that that they're doing what the federal election the department is supposed to regulate if something is illegal, but it's New York doing it. So I'm glad I played this clip, because it's kind of reverting, because you guys probably didn't know what I was talking about, but he's articulating lawyer speak in the legal analysis of it. So pay attention to that.
Right, the federal operation of the presidency. Second, you've got a state trying to take over the federal government's authority to enforce the election laws. As you said, the Southern District of New York Justice Department, the Federal Election Commission, they all looked at this, the issue in this case, and they decided not to bring any prosecution. The Biden Justice Department should have been out there saying, this is our job. This is the job of the federal government to enforce federal law. No state can then come in and say, we're going to hijack federal law and enforce it because we think it means something else. And then
okay, I'll let him say his last point.
Third point, and I think this is the most important we talked about on your show before, Mark, think about the future. How are future presidents, future candidates for president going to think about their job, knowing that there might be a Juan Merchan out there, an Alvin Bragg out there, who are going to twist state laws to try to attack them both before they're in office and then, as they've been saying openly, once Donald Trump leaves office? Because Bragg and Merchan also talked about the possibility of suspending this and imposing the sentence on Donald Trump after he leaves the presidency. So I'm very disappointed.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of let you guys see that and how he talks about that federal law that, he was found. They prosecute him on it. They have the right to prosecute him on that. Okay, so we got three more clips. So let me see what this one is. We can move forward.
New York hush money case. This will make him the first U.S. president to take office with a criminal conviction. But the president-elect will not face any prison time.
Local 10's Christina Vasquez is joining us. She is live right now outside of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach with more on what that ruling actually means for the president-elect. Christina.
What it means is that there is no fine, there is no prison time, there's no probation. The judge in this case essentially ending the case without punishment. As you mentioned, Donald Trump did join that hearing that was in New York virtually from the comfort of his waterfront Palm Beach resort, where that judge did impose the lightest sentence available under New York state law.
I'm totally innocent. I did nothing wrong.
Donald Trump virtually appearing at his hush money case sentencing hearing Friday morning, a judge deciding the president-elect won't serve time or pay a fine. Last summer, Donald Trump became the first former president to be convicted on felony criminal charges. In May, a New York jury found him guilty of illegally falsifying 34 New York business records in order to illegally influence the 2016 election and what the DA's office called a catch and kill scheme to cover up a 6-figure payment to Stormy Daniels, a porn star who said she had sex with Trump, claims Trump has denied.
I did nothing wrong. By the way, I did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong.
Trump chided the jury's decision of guilt on 34 felony counts, and he attempted to skirt sentencing by asking the Supreme Court for help. But on Thursday, in a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court denied his request to halt his hush money sentencing.
Far from expressing any kind of
and even how they reporting that, this is why we gotta work. This is why you guys gotta be hard on a lot of these podcasters and a lot of these social influencers call themselves reporting the news and talking to you guys. When Trump, he's trying to skirt his sentencing by taking it to the Supreme Court. No, he's trying to make the Supreme Court rule on specific things ahead of it to take the validation of this crooked prosecution away from them. And the judge called his lawyers and called Trump to say, I'm not giving you nothing. I'm pretty much about to erase this whole thing. I got to sentence you to unconditional discharge because the actual jury ruled the verdict, but I can't find you, I can't probate you, I can't put you on probation, and I can't sentence you to no jail time. Why? Because this really is not a law, a ruling, or even a case that's gonna hold up through the appellate court to the Supreme Court. So I'm deleting it right now because everything that I see, all the laws and everything in place, I will be an illegal judge, and people will look at me like that for decades to come if I rule and give you prison time and validate this case. So he decided not to validate the case, but to say because the jury, I don't want to disrespect the juries, I'm a sentence you to unconditional discharge. So I'm sentencing you, and that kind of makes you a convicted felon, but really technically you're not, because I have to admit in my ruling and my sentencing that this is an illegitimate case. But they didn't report it like that. Oh, he's trying to skirt the sentencing. Why? His lawyers and them know he ain't gonna have no consequence to it. He want the judge to throw out the case. So in the Supreme Court he's trying to see if the Supreme Court will rule to throw it out.
Far from expressing any kind of remorse for his criminal conduct, the defendant has purposefully bred disdain for our judicial institutions
and every citizen should. Every citizen should.
A judge finalizing his felony conviction, choosing one of the most lenient sentences allowed under New York state law, unconditional discharge, which according to the New York Penal Code is a sentence imposed without imprisonment, fine, or probation supervision. A sentence of unconditional discharge is for all purposes a final judgment of conviction.
Meaning they can't bring it back. It's just khaki stuff. So we can move on to the next thing because I don't even need to hear the dumb commentary lady or the anchor reporter say what she gonna say. Okay, this is the last one, and like I said, I'm giving you CNN, Fox News, everybody, just to kind of make sure that this is covered good. This is the last one. Okay.
President-elect Donald J. Trump appeared virtually to be sentenced in his criminal hush money case. In a dramatic statement, the judge made clear that Donald Trump would be sentenced without any jail time or any other penalty for that matter. And that's because of one reason, and only one reason: his status as soon-to-be 47th President of the United States. Trump spoke on his own behalf, showing no contrition, bragging about his election win, and slamming the justice system.
It's been a political witch hunt.
Even how she articulated that is corrupt. You know what I'm saying? It's biased. Hey, lady. Yeah, you guys wanted him and you worked hard. And I'm telling you guys, I ran through the gauntlet of everybody that's responsible and that put billions and millions of dollars behind getting rid of him and destroying him and making it that he would. This is why America is great, y'all. It's the most phenomenal place on the world. And if we could have our constitutional rights be with the heart of the citizens, we'd be a good country. We'd be a phenomenal perfect country. But we got such a corrupt government, corrupt media, that is our job right now to fight back, to respond back. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because individual perspective is much needed, more now than ever. Okay? Hit the follow, hit the likes, hit the subscribe, hit the Venmo and the PayPal and the links in the description. Guys, hook me up, okay? Let me let them finish up.
I mean, Dana, really an extraordinary moment. Donald Trump had been at every single day of this criminal trial, but today, the day of his sentencing, which he fought so hard to try to stop, he appeared on a video screen. It was set up in the courtroom, and when Trump delivered those statements to the judge, Judge Juan Merchan, who was sitting on the bench, had turned, was facing the monitor, watching Trump as he sat beside his attorney, Todd Blanche, and delivered those statements. And then the judge delivered his sentence. He also continued to look at that monitor as he spoke to the president-elect and explained to him that he could have sentenced him from as much as 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison on each count, but he emphasized, as you noted, that Trump is now reelected to the office of the presidency, and that those legal obligations and benefits that he receives heading into that office had been at every single day of this criminal trial. But
anyway, he got a lot of nerve to say, well, I could sentence you to 1 to 4 years on each count. Let me add that up. This is ridiculous. Okay, 1 to 4 years on each count. So let's go 1. So 34 years. Up to, so it would have been 1 to, so he could have tried him if he said, for each count, I could sentence you to 1 to 4 years on each count. So if he did 1 year for each count, it would have been 34 years. If he did 4 years for each count, it would have been 136 years. So you're going to threaten me like that? You're going to see that I'm wrongfully and I'm a criminal. I'm such a heathen. I'm such a ridiculous human being. That I'm such a scumbag that's criminally liable for what you guys said that I'm liable for, and that I'm guilty of what you said that I'm guilty for, and you believe that you could have sentenced me to 34 to 136 years, but you didn't, and you gave me nothing, no probation, no fines, nothing. You had the right to fine me millions of dollars. You had the right to do whatever you had to do, but you decided not to do no fines, no probation, no sentencing in jail from 34 years up to 136 years. You decided to not do that because of what? And then you decided to just say that this is, you get no penalties at all because I won the election? Ridiculous. This is how corrupt they are. This is how corrupt their reporting is.
Today, the day of his sentencing, which he fought so hard to try to stop, he appeared on a video screen. It was set up in the courtroom, and when Trump delivered those statements to the judge, Judge Juan Merchan, who was sitting on the bench, had turned, was facing the monitor, watching Trump as he sat beside his attorney, Todd Blanche, and delivered those statements. And then the judge delivered his sentence. He also continued to look at that monitor as he spoke to the president-elect and explained to him that he could have sentenced him from as much as 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison on each count, but he emphasized, as you noted, that Trump is now reelected to the office of the presidency, and that those legal obligations and benefits that he receives heading into that office is what guided his sentence.
It is the legal protections afforded to the office of the President of the United States that are extraordinary, not the occupant of the office. Ordinary citizens do not receive those legal protections. It is the office of the President that bestows those far-reaching protections to the office holder. And it was the citizenry of this nation that recently decided that you should once again receive the benefits of those protections.
Now, there was Judge Juan Merchan speaking there. You know, this is the first time that the public has heard the judge speak. Trump has been critical of the judge, calling him biased for months, both at the beginning of this trial and ever since the jury's verdict. The judge there explaining his belief that this sentence, even if it's an unconditional discharge, does reinforce that very jury verdict. And the public now can hear the judge, can hear his manner, his tone. That is.
Yeah, because he's been a hack. He's been a political hack. I want to go down in history knowing that I sentence you, and I want to hear my voice, and I want the world to hear my voice, and I want them to document it, and I want them to put it in movies, and I want them to put it in documentaries. I want the whole world to hear my voice sentencing you, even though I can't sentence you to criminal years, which I have every right to do it. And if you're a criminal nincompoop or degenerate that I could do it, I'm not going to do it because I don't know, I'm somewhat giving you the validation that I was wrong and the legal system was wrong, and in the same time I'm trying to validate the jury's idiot.
Is exactly what he brought throughout the trial, that even in the face of Trump insulting him and the rule of law, the judge has maintained kind of that steady, even presence from the bench. As his parting words to Trump as he was wrapping up the sentencing was he said Godspeed to Trump as he entered the White House for his second term. Dana?
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, I cannot even imagine what it was like to be in there. Thank you for giving us so much.
Man, such an idiot. Hey, look, I'm done. I'm done with these people, okay? Look, we're up to date. You're up to date on this. No more commentary stuff. No more listen to the anchors talk. I tell you, my job right now is to destroy podcasters, destroy social influencers that's reporting the news, and they suck, and they don't do subjective. I'm sorry. See, I'm so enraged right now, and I just did this 3-hour and 4-hour almost podcast. I'm so pissed and upset, but my job is to counteract the social media influencers and the podcasters that put so much of their own bias, like ego, into their reporting that they don't give you the basis, they don't give you the facts of it, they don't articulate a way that it applies for you and it applies to you. They like to just come online, talk for a few minutes and then go off, and then, or they bring up something and talk for a few minutes and then go off. It's a certain psychosis the way that we have to communicate. Even in reporting, I understand it takes up time and all other stuff, but people listen to 3-hour podcasts and 4-hour podcasts, and they can incrementally listen to it as they go. And maybe I'll try to figure out how to put some time stamps in there and stuff too. But in a way, you articulate yourself to it. So this is what it means for you as an American citizen, and for how you got to deal with your life and where you're going in your life and certain things. That's how I bring it up to you guys. That's how I talk about it, because it's not about the news so much. It's not about what happened to Trump. It's about what they did to Trump to change how they're gonna deal with us as a country in overall. And the only reason why the Constitution is somewhat how it was before Trump is because Trump beat them by spending the $1 billion to fight them to not have the narrative and money be the situation that stopped him from fighting. If he freaked out about spending $200 million on fighting cases, then he would have got swallowed in by propaganda and by with the CIA and the FBI and the DOJ and the state generals and the district attorney law offices does to him, and the media and everybody. And I'm not gonna go over it again, but he fought people. I have no respect for any Hollywood person, because even if they support Trump, they support him after the fact. Even if they support Trump, they support him by not even saying nothing and staying biased, but they don't understand little people getting destroyed by how the big people are messing with money, messing with the economic status, certain things that you collect a dime here, a nickel here, a dollar here, $10 here, $100 here, $1,000 from every single citizen on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis. It gives the power that a lot of the millionaires float above the citizens, but the only way you floating above the citizens is because the lowest on the food chain people are nickel and diming. The government is nickel and diming them to let you flow. And then in a situation of taxation, you're deciding to give that taxation to the government. You can actually put money into inner city or into a up and coming entrepreneur. I don't care if it's whatever the job is, whatever they trying to build a company out of. You can give that money to them and actually do a tax write-off as supporting a person's up and coming business, or a inner city person's up and coming business, or a black owned business, or a minority person's business, or a low income person business. Even if you want to do white, black, Asian, whatever, you can do tax write off to that you decide. Millionaires, that you decide when people are texting you, emailing you, and everything, and they communicate about you helping them with the business or the financial endeavor with the situation that they're trying to achieve, and that you decide, well, no, I'm not going to help you out. You're doing that, even if the money you're talking about, you're paying to the government anyway, the IRS, and they actually have a tax code that you can see if this person actually going to do something really good. You got to blow it anyway with the IRS. So why not to take the chance on the people that are communicating a business strategy to you, and just to see it if it works out. If it don't, you write it out off as a tax 1099, and they write it off as part of you supporting low income people or the minorities or something like that. The tax code as is a win-win for a millionaire and a billionaire to help people that are trying to come up. Why aren't they doing it? Because they're trying to keep that social economic class of low income people in the high. They're trying to destroy the middle. They do not want the middle to survive. Even your social influencers, even your podcasters, multimillionaire podcasters, even your movie stars and your musicians and your politicians, they got to make an effort. They got to make a decision to keep people in poverty because of tax write-offs, to allow for successful people to capitalize low income people. And if they're doing that, that's what we got. That's why I'm here to talk about. So look, I know I've been talking for a long time. Thank you. My name is Daris D. McKinney. This is Individual Perspective Podcast. When your truth is the objective truth, because we communicate and we report and we podcast in objectivity. Okay. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I know I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm stressed because there's other things I'm dealing with. Please hit the follow, the like, and subscribe. And also, guys, show some love. I'm trying to level this podcast up as fast as I possibly can. Give you what you really, 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 really want me to do. Panels, reporting, documentaries, even movies that we're going to put in. It's going to be an exclusive movie that's structured under the idealism of Individual Perspective Podcast. I can do all that stuff. That's what I fought for, but I need your help. And at the same time, I need your support. So if you guys can, go into the Venmo, go into the PayPal. Also, we got a locals membership. It's all in the description. Please show some love, y'all. Individual Perspective Podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next one.